Order members. Before we proceed, I would like to remind members about some of the logistical arrangements. As has been our practice to date, honourable members will participate in the sitting of the House, both from here in the chamber with the presiding officer and the table staff, and by Microsoft Teams. And our standing rules have accordingly been amended to accommodate such hybrid sittings. Honourable members who are experiencing challenges in connecting to the sitting are requested to contact the WCPP ICT colleagues who will assist to resolve the connectivity challenges. Honourable members, the quorum requirements for the sitting of the House are provided for in the Constitution and the standing rules, and unless there is an indication of unanimous concurrence, voting will be confined to members present in the House and on the hybrid system who are entitled to cast their votes as per the ATC issued on the 11th of August 2020. Members present in the chamber and via Microsoft Teams have all the privileges and immunities imparted by law. Honourable members, the Sergeant at Arms will record members' attendance. Members who are considered out of order by the presiding officer will have their microphones muted and called to order. Honourable members, I wish to remind you that no interjections are permitted during these hybrid sittings. And to this end, I wish to draw your attention to Rule 40 of our standing rules. Honourable members, the media have also been granted access to the MS Teams meeting as guest of the WCPP. However, I wish to remind the members of the press that they may not use the chat room or speak or activate their cameras while the sitting are in progress. Honourable members, language translation services are available in the chamber as usual and on Microsoft Teams via the respective channels. Honourable members, please allow me an opportunity to welcome the guests in the gallery. Welcome to the WCPP. I wish to remind the members or in the gallery or guests in the gallery that you may not participate in the proceeding of the House, but you're more than welcome today, and I hope you enjoy your visit to the WCPP. I now recognize the Honourable Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I give notice and move that notwithstanding the provisions of Rule 21, that precedence be given to the subject for discussion for today. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chief Whip. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion? No objections. Agreed to. Honourable members, we will now deal with the subject for discussion in the name of the Honourable NP Masipa, as printed on the order paper, and I recognize the Honourable Masipa.
Honourable Speaker, today I rise to celebrate a hard-won victory, a victory for the unemployed, the women-led households, for struggling families in Kailicha, Joslovo, Nyanga, Langa, Mitchell's Plain, Beaufort West, and beyond. The ANC's plan to increase VAT was more than ill-considered. It was an act of economic cruelty. It was a policy born out of desperation by a government that has run out of ideas and, more tragically, out of empathy. Minister Godongwana yesterday in court insisted on pushing through this burden, stating, and I quote, "I have never suggested that I could revoke the announcement, nor will I have misled the public. From the outset of my announcement, I was consistently and publicly stated that the VAT rate will increase to 15.5% on May 1st. That remains my position," close quote. Well, not anymore, not under our watch, because the pressure from the Democratic Alliance did work. We stood firm, we fought not for headlines, but on principle, and we won. There will be no VAT increase on the 1st of May. This is the people's victory and the DA's determination in action. To the residents of Kailicha, Guguletu, Nyanga, Philippi, Mitchell's Plain, Heidefeld, Athlone, know this: the Democratic Alliance is on your side, and we will do everything in our power to protect you from the economic injustice and misgovernance of the ANC. Unlike others, we won't allulate in Parliament for voting the rise in VAT. Let me be clear: Patriotic Alliance, Action SA, ANC, IFP, Al-Jama, Rais Musanzi, BOSA, UDM, PAC, they all voted in favor of VAT increase. You do not get to celebrate VAT defeat today. You were on the wrong side of history. Honorable Speaker, VAT is not a once-off charge like a sales tax. It is applied at every stage of the production and sales process, from the farmer harvesting raw sugar to the manufacturer producing a sweet to the shopkeeper selling it at a local spa. VAT is collected and remitted at every point. Raising VAT is not simply a tax increase. It is a direct blow to the poor. It impacts those who are already shouldering the heaviest burdens, especially Black women and single mothers heading households. And we are not talking about luxury goods. We are talking about essentials, food, toiletries, electricity, and school supplies. This wasn't a tax increase. It was a direct assault on the poor. The DA stood between the poor and the state's hunger for more tax, and we won. Globally, VAT is recognized as a regressive tax. Closer to home, in 2018, Mr. Zain Dango, the DG of DERCO, sounded the alarm. He warned that the VAT increase from 14% to 15% will harm working class South Africans, most particularly Black women and single mothers. He criticized the then Finance Minister, Malusi Gigaba, for using what he called blunt instruments to plug a 50.8 billion rands revenue shortfall. Dango highlighted how most zero-rated food items lack nutritional value and warned that a VAT hike will push poor families toward even cheaper, less healthy alternatives, undermining our public health goals of reducing obesity, diabetes, and other non-communicable diseases linked to nutrition. And even though supposedly zero-rated VAT goods still require electricity and water to prepare, both of which are subject to VAT. So in practice, even the basics cost more. This was not governance, it was economic negligence from the ANC. It was betrayal disguised as fiscal policy. The ANC tried to fix its budget failures by taxing those with no buffer, no credit cards, and no savings and no voice. It is a disgraceful, Honorable House Chairperson. Raising VAT was a lazy answer from a tired government, the easy route of taxing the poor instead of confronting your own policy failures. And let me end with this. You cannot tax your way out of incompetence. You cannot govern by force of habit. You cannot lead by default. The DA stood tall. We stopped VAT. We protected the vulnerable in Kailicha, in Guguletu, in Nyanga. We showed what principled opposition looks like. And come 2026, more South Africans will remember who truly
Honorable
fought for their
Masipa, please take your seat.
not just with
Honorable Masipa, please take your seat. Honorable Petrus, is that a point of order? I will address that when the honorable member comes back. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, is that a point of order?
The Honorable Masipa, with
Honorable
great respect,
Honorable Side, please tell me, is that a point
Yes.
of order first? Okay,
the
that's-
Honorable Masipa is misleading the House. The DA are not part of the opposition. They're in the governing GNU at the moment.
Honorable Side, that is not a point of order. Honorable Masipa, you've got a couple of seconds remaining. Please conclude.
Thank you, House Speaker. The DA stood tall. We stopped VAT. We protected the vulnerable in Kailicha and Guguletu. We showed what principled opposition looked like. And come 2026, more South Africans will
Honorable
remember
Masipa,
who
please
truly
conclude.
fought for their dignity, not just with words, but with action. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Masipa. Honorable members, before I recognize Honorable Stoffel, can I just get an indication if you need the podium? All right, we'll give an opportunity for the podium. Honorable members, I just want to alert you, order members, just want to alert you that we're having some technical glitches with the clock, Minister Lond. So we are doing it manually in the interest of time and continuing the session. So if you do not see the clock on the screen, we're dealing with that at the moment. Honorable Stoffel, Stoffel, please take your seat. Honorable members, I just want to address Honorable Petrus and all honorable members. When you exit the chamber, if you could please do so on your side of where you're seated and not in the middle of the floor. I don't want you to be accused from your colleagues on the floor that you are crossing the floor. Order members, I'm on the floor. So honorable members, that's just parliamentary practice. If you could please just adhere to that. Right, Honorable Stoffel, if you're ready, and then I recognize you.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm ready. What a day. Honorable Speaker, members of the people of the Western Cape, I rise today to contribute to the critical debate on the impact of VAT increase on the provincial expenditure and the cost of living. We are confronting a crisis, the relentless rise in the cost of living and the crushing burden in the imposes of the poor on the poor. But today, we must also address an act of political deception. Let us be clear that the VAT increase disproportionately harms the working class and the poor. VAT is regressive. Listen, listen, listen. VAT is a regressive tax that
Order.
falls hardest on those already struggling under economic deprivation and hardship. Listen carefully. For household living on the pittance afforded by the low wages or social grants, every VAT increase strip away what little buying powers they possess. Essential goods such as food, electricity, and transport already consume most of the income. Further, no, we give you the history of the damage of VAT.
Order, members.
Further increasing VAT would worsen the cost of living crisis, plunging more families into poverty. Meanwhile, the wealthy, who is the DA, whose corporate taxes have been repeatedly slashed, remain shielded from the economic violence, profiting at the expense of workers and the poor. We recognize its reality, which is why the ANC government refrained from raising the VAT for 28 years. From 1994 to 2018, the 1% VAT increase in 2018 was necessary to fund critical initiatives, including the free higher education. When a 2% VAT hike was recently proposed, the ANC was the first to
Honorable
reject it.
Stoffel, please take your seat. My apologies. Honorable Walters, is that a point of order?
I would like to know whether the member wants to take a question. Could I
Please,
sit down, Mr. Speaker?
please take your
Okay,
seat. I will ask
listen
the.
to you, not the anti-poor party.
Thank you very much, Honorable Walters. Honorable Stoffel, are you prepared to take a question?
Honorable Walters, I'm working here. Allow me to do so. When a 2%
Honorable Stoffel, in the interest of process, are you prepared to take a question, yes or no?
No, Speaker.
The Honorable Stoffel is not prepared to take a question. You may continue.
The ANC was the first party to reject it, instructing Treasury to reconsider. It is the ANC alongside other parties. Listen carefully, DA. Listen carefully, DA.
Order. Honorable Stoffel, if I need to protect you, you need to speak to me and not to the colleagues across the floor. So please speak to me, then I'm able to protect you.
I like this topic, Speaker. Thank you very much. ANC along the other parties, including those outside government of national unity that engage intensively deliberations, ultimately leading Treasury to scrap the planned increase. The victory was not the doing of those who sought to hold the country hostage by demanding the repeal of the Expropriation of Act, NHI, and the Bella Act as conditions for passing the budget. As we debate this issue, we must expose the blunted hypocrisy of the Democratic Alliance, a party rooted in new liberal policies that favor the elite. Now,
Honorable Stoffel, my apologies.
Engage.
Honorable Stoffel, please take your seat. Honorable Masipa, is that a point of order?
Speaker, yes, it's a point of order. I think the honorable member is misleading the House. He's talking about expropriation of the act. We don't know what act is that.
Honorable Masipa, that is not a point of order. Honorable Stoffel, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. You are not going to stop me. As we debate this issue, we must expose the blunted hypocrisy of the Democratic Alliance, a party rooted in neoliberal policies.
Honorable
that
Stoffel,
favor
please
the
take your
elite.
seat.
Now pretend
Honorable Stoffel, please take your seat. Can I just, at the table staff, please just manage the time? I see that the clock has been put back. So members, just for your noting. Honorable Walters, is that a point of order?
Yes, Chair, the member is indeed misleading the House. We're not trying to stop, but we wanted to keep talking with this comedy show.
That is not a point of order. Honorable members, That is not a point of order, Honorable Walters. Um, the honorable members, I must also caution you for frivolous points of orders.
Yes.
It's my responsibility to ensure that the decorum of the House is maintained, but also so that the person on the floor is protected to give his or her input. So I want to caution all members on frivolous points of orders, which I'm not going to entertain. Honorable Nkondlo, is that a point of order? Thank you very much. Honorable Stoffel, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. They come here pretending to care, but we know the truth. Their sudden worry for poor families is hard to believe. It's fake and dishonest. The DA anger about the VAT increase is not because they care about the poor. It's just acting. A rich party pretending to help. Where were they when the DA government in the Western Cape, especially in the city of Cape Town, raised electricity prices by 17% in 1 year? Where were they when the poor people had to pay more for basic service and poor taxes? The people know the truth. The truth is that the Western Cape is the most expensive province for the poor, not by accident, but by the DA's design. Speaker, let us speak painfully and make it clear that a cleaner Khayelitsha spent nearly half her income. A cleaner in Khayelitsha spent nearly half of her income just to travel to work. A pensioner in Mitchell's Plain is charged hundreds in electricity levies before they even switch on the lights. A young couple in Guguletu cannot afford rent in their own city, whilst the DA sell the public land to private developers. This is not caring governance. This is systematic exclusion. Honorable Speaker, the DA is now opposes by the very budget and VAT hikes their own deputy minister helped create. Just score political points while pretending to care for the poor. No, you don't care for the poor. Now the DA must prove its words meaning something. For months, they claimed to fight the poor. So let them cut the high prices.
Honorable Stoffel, your time has expired. Please just conclude.
Fix unfair property taxes that hurt poor, upgrade township instead of neglecting them, make transport cheaper and reliable for workers. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Stoffel. Thank you very much. Can I just get an indication, Minister, do you need the podium? Right. In that case, I recognize the Honorable Minister Wenger.
Thank you, Speaker. This year's budget cycle has been one for the books. Stops and starts, confusion, and quite frankly, a lot of chaos. At the heart of it, a VAT hike that would come at the expense of every South African. The additional 1% staggered over 2 years would have seen almost every good and service become more expensive and tipping more families into poverty. As a party, the DA has stood firm against a VAT increase and in finding ways of governing that does not raise the cost of living for our poorest residents. This is a victory for all South Africans. It is clear that the ANC is unprepared to make the hard choices until they were forced into a corner by the DA, which took them to court. It is no coincidence that this VAT U-turn comes directly after a disastrous day in court. For weeks, the ANC doubled down on the VAT increase. Just a few days ago, the finance minister...
Honourable Minister, please take your seat. Honourable members, it is a political debate, so I'm not going to try and stifle your right to heckle across the floor, but please do not drown out the speaker on the floor. The minute a speaker must start shouting over the microphone, it becomes a problem. So like when you're on the floor, I'll protect you. I will do the same for the Honourable Minister on the floor now. Minister, you may continue.
It's no coincidence that the VAT U-turn comes directly after a disastrous day in court. We know that for weeks, the ANC doubled down on the VAT increase. Just a few days ago, the National Finance Minister said, if there was another option, I'd have taken it. And again, in his answering affidavit on Tuesday, he said, the decision to introduce the VAT rate increase has been made. My decision to introduce the change cannot be interdicted at this stage. He said in papers that a VAT hike reversal would immediately force government to cut expenditure. I don't know about you, Mr. Speaker, but I think that cutting spending seems like a good idea. The national government should conduct a spending review, rein in runaway spending, establish responsible fiscal discipline, and cut down on the billions lost every year to waste, mismanagement, and corruption. As we all know from our own lives, we need to look at the money we have and spend it where it matters most. The people of South Africa do this every day, and it's high time we had a government that was willing to do this as well. We could start by cutting the fees of the board of the National Housing Finance Corporation that earn 23,000 Rand per board member per meeting. Or the numerous splurges on non-essential spending items that plague the front pages of our newspapers every day. Speaker, South Africa urgently needs economic reforms that will ignite growth and combat poverty. No more quick cash grabs. No more taxing people who are already stretched to their limits. We know that to lift millions of people out of poverty, we have to grow the pie, not just carve it up differently. Yep. And yet, Speaker, in their statements this morning and again in this House, the ANC has the gall to attempt a rewrite of history. But South Africans know the truth, and so do we. It seems that the ANC is not willing to cut the fat, but is willing to cut the truth. It was the DA that took a firm stand because we believe that the Constitution matters, that fiscal discipline matters, and that the well-being of South Africans matter before any desperate attempt to plug a budget hole with a regressive tax. Speaker, the DA fought this in Parliament, in public and in the courts, because that's what it means to put the interests of South Africans first. The Western Cape government has been clear on what our apex priority is: to help businesses grow and create jobs, and to equip our residents to get those jobs. Yes. We live out this vision through our transversal growth for jobs strategy, which aims to drive breakout economic growth, job creation, and a resilient and thriving economy. We've set ourselves an ambitious target to build a R1 trillion jobs-rich, inclusive and sustainable economy, growing at 4 to 6% annually in the Western Cape by 2035. This
Honourable
has the
Minister,
potential
please take your seat.
600,000 jobs.
Honourable Windvogel, is that a point of order?
Speaker, I just want to check if the minister is prepared to take a question.
I will ask the Minister. Minister, are you prepared to take a question?
Quite a lot to get through.
No, the Minister is not prepared to take a question. Honourable Minister, you may continue.
Thank you. This growth for jobs strategy has the potential to create over 600,000 jobs. Speaker, in the last 2 financial years, the Western Cape Department of Health and Wellness has walked a tightrope. We've made the tough decision, freezing the filling of posts and meticulously managing our goods and services budget. As the province's largest procurer, we buy everything from medicines to medical equipment to linen and cleaning products. And we do so with care because we know that every cent counts. But let's bring this even closer to home, Mr. Speaker. Let's talk about what this VAT increase would have meant for the Western Cape Department of Health and Wellness, a frontline service. Had the VAT increase been implemented, it would have meant that come next Friday, we'd be paying an extra 50 million rand, not on medication, not on beds, not on nurses.
Honourable Minister, please take your seat. Can I just ask that the table staff manage the time? Honourable Stoffel, is that a point of order?
Speaker, through you, can I offer the Minister water?
That is not a point of order. Honourable members, order. Well, honourable members, I've made a comment earlier on frivolous points of orders. I'm cautioning members now again. This is the last caution. You are absolutely in your right to use the parliamentary privileges and rules at your disposal. But frivolous points of orders is in my domain, and that is assist myself as the presiding officer with ensuring that the decorum of the House is maintained. Honourable members, for the last time, frivolous points of orders will not be entertained. Honourable Minister, my apologies, you may continue.
That's money that would have left the front line, Mr. Speaker. But in the Western Cape, we continue to do what we've always done: protect services, support the most vulnerable, and spend responsibly. But let's be honest, we cannot tax our way out of poor governance or stagnation. And we cannot build a healthier South Africa by making life harder for the very people we are meant to serve.
Your time has expired. Please conclude.
We need a government, a national government that puts people first.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I see that the Honorable Petrus has got the podium. Honorable Petrus, I recognize you.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I greet all the people of the Western Cape, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Patriotic Alliance. Finally, the VAT increase has been cancelled and scrapped. Our President, Minister Gayton McKenzie, said today the following, I quote, "The winner here is the voter and not political parties. We created the confusion and the stress," close quote. This is indeed a remarkable victory for the unemployed and the working class. Our mothers have some relief. The shops can keep prices stable. Thank you to all parties that never run away from the negotiating table. Never stop representing our people. Ja, waar staan julle op die oomblik? Julle staan met julle een voet binne die regering van nasionale eenheid en met julle ander voet buite die regering van nasionale eenheid. Watter die mekaar spel en verwarring kan dit nie wees vir julle ministers en vir julle openbare verteenwoordigers nie. Ons wil die volgende herhaal. Enige plan van afskeiding of om die Weskaap verder te isoleer van die res van Suid-Afrika sal nie geduld word. Dankie.
Thank you very much, Honorable Petrus. Can I just get an indication, Honorable Kasim, do you need the podium? In that case, I recognize the Honorable Kasim.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, the EFF notes the withdrawal of the VAT increase, or rather the reversal of the VAT increase, Speaker, and would like to point out that from the outset, the EFF has condemned and rejected the prolonged VAT increase of 0.5%, which was originally planned, Speaker, to be implemented over a period of 2 years. Speaker, if proceeded with, the brunt of these increases would have had a further negative and detrimental impact on the lives of the poor and middle class who are already battling with the effects of a non-growing economy, unemployment and inflation. This would have been nothing but a malicious taxation of the poor, which in turn would have shielded and protected the predominantly white monopoly corporate sector, which often gets away with undermining the South African economy through illicit financial flows and tax invasion. Speaker, we share the sentiments which holds that VAT increases will not automatically lead to any growth or increases in revenue, since there's a lot of things done wrong by this government, both nationally and provincially, but will instead reap apart the poor and subject them to more hardship. Speaker, Speaker, there is absolutely no need to have burden the poor, rather, Speaker, by increasing VAT. But what is required is for this national government to capacitate the South African revenue services in order to decisively deal with the illicit financial flows and go hard against those who evade tax in order to have more revenue, which can be used by the state for services. But Speaker, as the DA celebrate and claim victory on the reversal of the tax, the DA is also not innocent in all of this, Speaker, as a majority of our DA-led municipalities, as well as in the Western Cape, constantly continue to increase rates annually against the poor, even in the clearest of cases where it's evident that our people cannot keep and afford. Speaker, as of the 1st of July, 2025, municipalities in the Western
Kasim,
Cape...
please take your seat. Honorable members, there's a member on the floor. The interjections is actually not aimed at the member, but it's a conversation that's happening across the floor between my left and my right side. So, Honorable Kasim, my apologies. Honorable members, please afford the member an opportunity. Honorable Kasim, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, as of the 1st of July 2025, municipalities in the Western Cape under the DA leadership are proposing to increase municipal rates at an average of 8% tariff increase, whilst the City of Cape Town, also DA, is leading the way with an average of 18.17%, with an additional proposed tariff called citywide cleaning tariff, which is also to be added, Speaker. In areas such as the southern suburbs, these increases will vary between 30 to 40%, with pensioners raising concerns that this will have a negative, or rather a further negative impact on them, since their pension income is not increasing at that rate. This means that for the poor, Speaker, and the unemployed, the situation will be even more dire. But Speaker, in conclusion, like I said, as the DA celebrates and claim the victory of the tax increase withdrawal by National Treasury, they should start and they should also not forget to ask the DA municipality, Speaker, to withdraw these proposed tariff increases to make life a bit easier for our people, especially in areas like Mitchells Plain, Khayelitsha, among others. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kasim. Honorable Johnson, do you need the podium? In that case, I recognize the Honorable Johnson.
Honourable Speaker, let me begin by welcoming the decision to scrap the proposed VAT increase. This is a victory for the people of South Africa, but let us not forget why we fought so hard against it. VAT is a regressive tax. It takes the same from the wealthiest South Africans as it does from the poorest, but the impact is far from equal. It punishes the poor and working class most. Families who spend almost everything they earn on essentials like food, transport, rent, school supplies, and medicine. This is not about tightening belts. It's about choosing which necessity to go without. A choice between needs, not a choice of wants. Speaker, imagine a grandmother in the Central Karoo. Her pension already stretches thin. A VAT increase might only mean 12 or 20 rand more on her monthly groceries, but that can mean the difference between bread or medication. That does not sound like much in this chambers, but outside 7 Whale Street, for my constituents in the Central Karoo and the constituents of all other members in this House, this is the lived experience of a possible VAT hike. This is not theory. Food prices in rural areas are already high due to transport and logistics. VAT affects not just items, but the entire supply chain, petrol, rent, and distribution. Even a 0.5% increase would quietly push vulnerable South Africans deeper into poverty. And while VAT is a national tax, its consequences land on provinces. Less disposable income means more strain on public health, education, transport, and social development. The Western Cape already stretches every rand, especially in rural areas. This increase would have shifted national failure onto households and then onto provincial governments. Honourable Speaker, this entire VAT saga, from the proposal to the reversal, has shown us one thing, that the ANC government is rudderless. Policy instability, lack of consultation, and public outcry have all harmed market confidence. Investors don't respond well to this kind of chaos. It also undermines our provincial mission of equity. Take the Central Karoo, where our per capita spending is 34% above the provincial average. We do this to close the urban-rural gap, but VAT eats into every cent of that spending, diminishing the impact of every rand that we have allocated. Honourable Speaker, the ANC had choices. They could have cut waste. Why spend hundreds of millions on VIP protection? Why lose billions to corruption and mismanagement? Why spend billions on ghost employees, raising more and more taxes from the poor? This is not just inappropriate. It is like a vampire state sucking money from the most vulnerable. Agbare Speaker, en dan is daar die Patriotic Alliance.
Agbare Johnson, kan jy asseblief jou sitplek inneem? The Honourable Side, is there a point of order?
Is the Honourable Johnson willing to take a question?
I will ask the Honourable Johnson. Honourable Johnson, are you prepared to take a question?
No, I'm not, Speaker.
The Honourable Johnson is not prepared to take a question. Honourable Johnson, you may continue.
En dan is daar die Patriotic Alliance, Speaker, 'n party wat voorgee om vir die landelike gemeenskappe en die armes te praat, maar wie se dade hulle verraai. Hierdie selfde party wat hardop 'n 2% behooging verwerp het, maar toe vir 'n 0.5% verhoging gesteun het. 'n Draaipunt wat die waarheid ontbloot. Die PA gee nie regtig om vir die werkersklas nie. Hulle belofte van die Dubai en die Karoo is nog steeds net 'n illusie. The DA took legal actions not only because it was a bad policy decision, but because it was steamrolled without any consultation. Yesterday's outcome proves that principal opposition works, public pressure matters, and court matter. Democracy works when leaders listen. Honourable Speaker, we govern in this province. We are entrusted with public money and we listen. From Maritzburg to Uniondale, Napier to Touws River, Ceres to Mitchells Plain, Darling to Wuppertal, and Lutzville to Kliprand. Our people told us life is getting harder. We heard them and we acted. This tax would have hurted everyone, but especially the poor. It would have raised the cost of living, deepened inequality, and offered no long-term solution. Because we stood firm, that burden has now been lifted. Agbare Speaker, kiesers reg oor hierdie provinsie weet dat daar 'n hele paar van hierdie lede is in hierdie huis wat van landelike gebiede afkom. Vir ons gemeenskappe moet ons as 'n baken van hoop gesien word. En ons kom uit landelike gemeenskappe en vandag is ons leiers van hierdie provinsie. Dit beteken dat ons beter as enige iemand anders die uitdagings wat ons gemeenskappe in die gesig staar, moet verstaan. Maar agbare Speaker, vandag wil ek graag deur u by lede van die ANC, Patriotic Alliance, Aljama en Good vra of hierdie BTW-verhoging wat hulle ondersteun het tot voordeel of nadeel van die kiesers sal wees in hierdie provinsie wat vir hulle gestem het. Want ons almal in hierdie huis was vertrou met 'n stem om die beste belange van almal te verteenwoordig. Honourable Speaker, as Minister Baartman said in a budget speech, that the Western Cape will never stop working for the people of this province. We will fight for every citizen in every town across the Western Cape. Honourable Speaker, the DA cares about the dignity of every South African. We will continue to fight for a government that balances its books, not on the back of the poor, but through real leadership, fiscal discipline, and pro-growth reforms. Thank you.
Baie dankie agbare Johnson. Die volgende lid is agbare Jacobs.
Thank you, Speaker. Greetings to all. I greet you all in the name of the Most High. Speaker, ek is so gelukkig vandag. As ek my ore nie was, ja, lag ek seker my kop af. And here's why. That connect me with the universe. Speaker, as I stand here today, now, the VAT increase of 0.5% has just been cancelled. And it will stay at 15%. Now, Speaker, if the mainstream media is to believe that we must thank the DA for this, then we have a problem with the media. If we go back in history, it was fighting for freedom, including media freedom. Today, we see how the media is compromised by promoting the DA's propaganda. Speaker, this is grandstanding in the highest form. But the multi-party discussions such as the ANC and the NCC and other political parties must be applauded for this. As a matter of fact, looking at the proposed budget of the city of Cape Town, increased cost for services and rates should have the DA hang their heads in shame. The rich won't feel this, but the poor will suffer. This is travesty of justice to the poor and the unemployed people of the city of Cape Town. And although the VAT has no increase, the increase in services and rates, not only in the city of Cape Town, but across the DA-run Western Cape, will damage the already suffering people of this province. As the NCC, we are proud to say that we were part of the VAT discussion. And as for the DA, who were prepared to agree for the 2% VAT increase if the ANC stood down the land issue, we simply say, down with the DA. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Jacobs. Can I just get an indication? Honourable Marais, are you on the online platform?
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, I am, Speaker.
Okay. Honourable Marais, just give me 1 second. We're just sorting out the digital clock. There we go. I recognize you, Honourable Marais. You may continue.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Honourable Speaker, the recent announcement that VAT will not increase by 0.5% on the 1st of May 2025 is indeed a victory for all South Africans, and especially, Speaker, the parties such as the Freedom Front Plus, who did not support the increase in terms of the fiscal framework. Speaker, those political parties who voted in favour of the increase deserve an opportunity to explain themselves to their voters and apologise for their mistakes. For the past 30 years, South Africans had one political party at the helm of national government decisions. Policies were implemented that failed to address the causes of poverty and a declining economy. BEE is one of the major causes of our failing economy and the failures of state-owned enterprises. It is time that we as South Africans look inwardly, as is what's happening in the USA. They're starting to look inwardly to resolve the economic crisis and their financial challenges. We cannot continue to burden hardworking citizens with VAT increases. It is unjust and unfair. The government of national unity must set the new agenda for a financial and economic recovery and press the reset button on expenditure. Speaker, future decisions must be taken by the government of national unity to expand our progress. And the multi-party government of national unity must be the decision-making body and not those outside the GNU. Speaker, the Freedom Front Plus will continue to play its role in the hard work of rebuilding a better future for all our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Marais. Minister, before I recognize you, Minister Bartman, do you need the podium? In that case, I recognize Minister Bartman.
Honourable Speaker, the Western Cape government welcomes the scrapping of the VAT increase hike. It is not a neutral policy. It is regressive, it is anti-poor, and it would have been a direct assault on the hard-working people of South Africa. Speaker, to put the impact of VAT on the Western Cape government into context, procurement sits at the heart of service delivery. Once you take compensation of employees, which is accounted for, which is 55% of our budget, you take that out. The next largest portion goes to goods and services, amounting to 19.074 billion rand, or 21.7% of our total 2025 budget. A 0.5% VAT increase, not accounting for zero-rated, exempt goods or VAT-exempt suppliers, would have forced us to find an estimated additional 95.37 million rand for medical supplies and equipment, educational materials, computers, and building maintenance and construction. These are not luxuries, but necessities of a functioning service delivery obsessed government. Preliminary data on our top 10 suppliers in our province showed an almost 9.9 billion rand in expenditure for only 11 months ending in March 2025. A 0.5% VAT increase on this amount would have equaled a 46 million rand hike. We could have seen potential increases of more than 8.8 million rand for building and contractor costs, 3.18 million rand for laboratory services, and 4.22 million rand for medicine, medical supplies, and equipment. And this, Speaker, is just an analysis of our top 10 suppliers. These figures are therefore conservative, as they also do not include the impact that would have had on our transfers to entities and municipalities. But Speaker, I just need to quickly do some recycling here, because apparently South Africa does not have a national budget. This is the appropriation bill nationally and the revision of revenue. This side of the house, that table does not have a budget, so we need to recycle. Speaker, given the impact of the announcement of the withdrawal of the National Appropriations Bill and the Division of Revenue Bill of 2025, there's also been concern about how this might impact the provincial Western Cape budget. The start of the financial year was the 1st of April 2025. Today is the 24th. Therefore, according to Section 29 of the Public Finance Management Act, our national and provincial governments will spend in terms of the 2024 national and provincial budgets. For the first 4 months of the new 2025 financial year, we are allowed to spend up to 45% of our total amount appropriated in the previous annual budget. And for each of the following months, we are allowed to spend up to 10% of our total amount appropriated. However, in total, you cannot exceed the full 100% of the total amount of your previous budget. So Speaker, just for those listening in, asking many questions about what happens to the budget in the province. So if you had a total budget, hypothetically, of 100 Rand in 2024, including your adjusted amounts, you may not spend more than 45 Rand in your first 4 months, and every month thereafter, not more than 10 Rand. But however, you will notice that this will add up to 125 Rand, which is a concern because you're only allowed to spend 100%, or that hypothetical 100 Rand you had previously. So that additional 25 Rand could amount to unauthorized expenditure. Therefore, Every province and the national government must manage our cash flow in such a manner to make sure we never exceed 100%. As a province, we wish to assure the people of the Western Cape that we will work with care to ensure that we do not exceed the legal limits. In fact, if we use our previous financial year as a roadmap, we will remain well within our spending limits, and this is responsibility. In the meantime, we will spend against our provincial revenue fund. I would like to remind the House that the Western Cape government took a prudent approach with its own provincial budget previously in March. And we did not table any new or additional money that was announced attached to the VAT hike announcement. Therefore, the provincial budget of the Western Cape, which we tabled, was in line with the previous national fiscal framework, as if no VAT hike existed. The Western Cape government has always remained clear. We have significant budget pressures, especially in health, education, and social services. But funding should come from fast-tracking economic growth reforms, cutting wasteful expenditure, and reprioritizing spending, not increasing VAT. If through implementing these proposals, additional funding flows to the provinces, we will then bring an adjusted budget to pass such funding along. We, however, call upon the Minister of Finance to ensure that he does not cut the pre-VAT provincial fiscal framework, as the impact of this would have a devastating impact on service delivery in provinces. Such a decision would be illogical and fiscally irresponsible. But Speaker, today is a victory for the hard-working people of South Africa and of the Western Cape. It is a day we will always remember, a day where we can hold up our constitution and remind the national government it is not your money, it is the people's money. And we, the people of South Africa, say no to VAT increases. I thank you.
Baie dankie, agbare Minister Baartman. I now recognize the Honourable Brinkhuis.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, it is not for the DA to claim moral victory over the reversal of the proposed VAT increase. They were prepared to accept the VAT increase if the Bella Bill was scrapped and if they could carry on with the kind of ruling to keep our people oppressed. Al Jamaa in the ANC and other parties were genuinely concerned about the proposed VAT increase. Thus, Al Jamaa has played a decisive role in the political life of South Africa and has successfully played a fundamental role to turn the tide on the proposed VAT increase. As a party committed to justice and equity, Al Jamaa has consistently opposed oppressive taxation, including VAT, which disproportionately impacts the poor and working class people. Through extensive negotiations and unwavering advocacy, our leader made it clear to our government of national unity that a VAT increase is not only unjust, but also counter to the spirit of building a people-centered economy. We remind the House of the leader of the ANC, Chief Albert Lutuli's famous words, and I quote, "Let my people go," which is a clear message to free South Africans from the chains of excessive taxation. The victory on the reversal on VAT increases is not just a party triumph, but a victory for every South African household. Delaying the passing of the fiscal framework would have caused anxiety amongst the food security of 45% of South Africans. Passing it was the right step to do, and for 30 days to use parliamentary processes. Going to the court undermined the people's parliament, and the DA has showed that it committed contempt for parliamentary
your time has
processes
expired. Please
by
conclude.
choosing to run to the court, and of its members ran to the Zionist Israeli apartheid entity. I thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Brinkhuis. Honourable Christians, do you need the podium? Honourable Christians, I recognize you.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I am totally confused because all political parties now voted against the VAT increase, even the ANC. We were definitely one of the political parties that opposed the VAT increase. And to think the ANC was looking at a 2% VAT increase. Speaker, the people got long memories. And I believe, the ACDP believe, that the ANC and all those who voted in favor of the VAT increase will see that they will be buried at the 2026 local government election. People, if you hit their pocket, they're going to hit you at the polling booth. And that is how the people show their anger. But Speaker, let me further say, the budget must be pro-growth. We must create jobs. But Speaker, we will do so well, the national government will do so well if they just only look at the tax gap. The tax gap I'm talking about is between what is owed to SARS and what they collect. It's estimated that there's 800 billion rand that's not collected. And if they just do their work and give SARS the necessary power and necessary resources, we believe we can breach this gap. But Speaker, let me say in closing, and it's so important to say this is a victory for the people. And we cannot take it away. We must say the DA took them to the courts, and we must say thank you to the DA for taking the ANC to the court. We must do that. Give credit where credit is due. If it was any other political party, I would have given credit.
Order.
But this was
Order.
a turnaround because of the court. It's
Order.
not of the ANC, it's because the DA took them to court. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Christian. Order, members. Honourable Nkondlo, order, members. Order. Honourable Nkondlo, before I recognize you, do you need the podium? Honourable Nkondlo doesn't need the podium, so I recognize you, Honourable Nkondlo.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Speaker. Today indeed is one of those interesting days when you sit in a parliament of a province led by the Democratic Alliance. I must say I'm reminded of what Amilcar Cabral spoke about then, and it's so true today that we must tell no lies and claim no easy victories. The topic of discussion is an interesting one, given the recent developments about the position of Finance Minister being to withdraw to proceed with the implementation of the 0.5 increase of VAT from the 1st May of 2025. A move to be welcomed by all, given the low economic growth under which South Africa's economy still suffers from, but also we must clap hands to the revelation of a DA crossing the floor to now a newfound class consciousness as self-declared champions of the poor. Indeed, we live in interesting political times where the political landscape is shifting in the country, and maybe we must celebrate the GNU effects if they can even, enable the DA to remember, the working class and the poor. It is interesting to think about this because one of the things we ask the DA here in this particular province, where was this pro-poor when you allowed your city of Cape Town to drag naked Bulelani Kolani here in Khayelitsha, Honorable Masipa, from his shack until the court had to tell you that it was unlawful to do so. Where has this streak of being pro-poor been when you continued to evict homeless people in the streets here in this town? We are interested to understand this streak of the DA of being pro-poor. And MEC of Health, when you tell us about you being pro-poor, where is Thandi? You were standing here one time talking about how you will be improving conditions, even creating a character, Thandi, from the townships. Where is Thandi today? There is many things that you have said and you have spoken here, talking, this pro-poor language. But when we look for evidence of this pro-poor from yourselves, we rarely find it. It is in province here that yourselves as the DA, you watched with then MEC Mainir giving a former DA MP who became a CEO of one of the entities, you know, almost 50, almost to 80% increase of salary at Tim Harris in Westgro. So don't come and play here theatrics to us. It's important that we talk about the poor because their issues are genuine, and it is just out of order that they become a political game, you know, amongst yourselves. The ANC remains committed to the plight of the poor, as evidenced by its choice of progressive tax system to address economic equity through our national budget. This has been chosen to redistribute wealth and reduce income inequality. Thus, the argument remains valid in a country with high levels of wealth inequality. That perhaps, isn't it proper to introduce wealth tax in the basket of alternative revenue sources for the country? As the Parliamentary Budget Office analysis suggests, that a 0.5% to 1% net wealth tax would have raised 38.4 billion rands in 2023. On another study by Chatterjee et al., it suggests that under conservative assumptions, a wealth tax could raise between 70 and 160 billion when taxed at a level of 1.5% to 3.5%. Will the DA join this call on behalf of the poor? The constitution of the RSA is a winner in this move, as for the first time, our democracy has shown resilience and putting brakes against a treasury-led budget where indeed theirs is to save cents and over time have plunged the country in unsustainable austerity with minimal revenue raising, especially in a staggering economy. Actually, we must remind this particular house, and I thought the MEC of Finance will be one of the people to speak about it. Anyway, she left a job unfinished here. That the Money Bills Amendment Procedure and Related Act number 9 of 2009, you know, had actually assisted this country, wherein the voice of Parliament as the legislature was able to be given voice, so that today we are able to even have a public and robust public participation on the budget, something that we don't even see you doing here in this very province where you claim the poor. We have not seen you going out and getting the poor to fill this particular chamber to raise their own voices about the budget. The fiscal gap is still with us, Speaker, and so we must be alive to this reality and leave the blue train to its theatrics whilst we work together with all parties of progress to find solutions for the stability of our country and its future. Whilst the DA is busy celebrating false victories, it has not answered the demand shock. To date, we're sitting with a reality that agro-processing is the largest employer in manufacturing in the country. We are worried about the tariffs' impact on key exporters in this space, citrus, table grapes, and so on. We were in engagement with many in the agri-industry in Casidra the other day with other members, and they were calling about the effects of this in their own potential growth. The national security tariffs, which will affect the auto component sector, which is served by many steel and engineering firms in the Western Cape, whose value chain now faces a 25% tariff. We've also seen a massive spike in uncertainty, leading to a rise in the 10-year bond yields of 11%, which will make the borrowing requirements much more costly for government and other borrowers across the economy. And yet the DA does not speak about the impact of this to this projected growth that you are speaking about of trillion jobs, you know, trillion rand economy, which is false. Because if you calculate in the reality of what AGOA in the next 5 months is going to be doing, the impact on the citrus industry, wherein you are actually projecting jobs, the reality is that those jobs may not be there. So what are you talking about? You are misleading the public. Yeah. We must start doing our job also as parliamentary committees, and ensure prudent oversight, working with Auditor General, SCOPA, MSCOA, and all other fiscal oversight machinery at our disposal. We must claw back on the fiscal leaks in our economy, and the SARS proposal to be assisted with capacity to collect almost 800 billion against those who evade tax, who use creative accounting to falsify tax returns, and consider strict monitoring of the tax incentive, especially as the Parliamentary Budget Office reports that on aggregate, actual employment tax incentives, credits, refunds were 7.2 billion in 2020 to 2021 and were 6.6 billion in 2021-2022. These must be reviewed against their efficacy as job numbers in the economy, rather than ending being a slush fund for consultants and ineffective employment programs. The increased spending on infrastructure must yield the tax benefits desired, including the socio-economic policy goals, such as jobs, skills, including tangible empowerment benefits for poor communities. National Treasury must work with DPME to monitor the investment of the state so we can optimally derive the benefit. History remains the arbiter. And indeed, we shall be here to the DA to remind them of this stance of being pro-poor. And actually, we shall be bringing cases of the pro-poor for you to resolve now that we have found the new love of actually weaponizing the issues of the poor. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nkondlo. I now recognize the Honorable Minister, Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. It's going to take my time, and honorable members. Let me start by quoting the Honorable Nkondlo by a quote that she used by Amilcar Cabral: "Tell no lies, claim no easy victories." It is a powerful call to integrity, honesty, humility in leadership, and activism. The quote was used to remind his fellow freedom fighters that real change required truth, hard work, and accountability, not propaganda and not shortcuts. It was the ANC minister that introduced the 2% budget hike. It was the ANC minister that introduced the 2% in February. It was the DA that objected to the 2%. It was the ANC minister that then came back with a 0.5%, additional 0.5%. It was the DA that took it matter to court. So the propaganda, the shortcuts that are now being spread by the ANC, the PA, the Action SA, Al Jamaa, Rise Mzansi, BOSA, UDM, and the PAC that had the audacity to call a press conference this morning to spread lies. It was them that tried to negotiate a way out of the matter they voted for in Parliament. They
Order,
the gall to think
Honorable
you
Minister.
can sit at a press conference this morning.
Honorable Minister, please take your seat. Honorable Ngweso, is that a point of order? Order, member, there's a member on the floor. Is that a point of order?
Thank you very much, Speaker. Given the misrepresentation and distortion, is the MEC prepared to take a question?
Honorable Minister, are you prepared to take a question?
No, thank you. Let me finish my speech. We'll talk during lunchtime.
The minister is not to order, members. The minister is not prepared to take a question, honorable member. Honorable Minister, you may continue.
Honorable Speaker, the unmitigated gall to call a press conference to explain your way at a matter that you voted for.
Honorable
in
Minister,
Parliament.
please take your seat. Honorable Petrus, is that a point of order?
Yeah.
What's your point of order?
Kan ek 'n vraag stel aan die minister?
Honorable Minister, are you prepared to take a
No,
question?
thank you, Honorable Member. No to any further questions until I completed my speech. Thank you.
Order, members. Honorable members. Honorable Petrus, the minister is not prepared to take a question from you. Honorable Minister, you may continue.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It was last night that the federal chairperson of the DA received a call from the lawyers on behalf of the minister. It was in true ANC style, close to midnight. That's how they destroyed this country. Close to midnight, they called and say, hey, we want to reach a deal. It was the ANC lawyers that reached out to us close to midnight. Typical ANC style. But the Honorable Benson, as we approach his Workers' Day, seeing that the Honorable Benson wanted me to address him, he's standing up, so he's asking for my input. Honorable Benson, your workers on the 1st of May, seeing that you are leader of the Workers' Party, would have stood up on the 1st of May.
Honorable Minister, please take your seat. I will recognize you now, Honorable Member. I recognize the leader of the opposition. Is that a point of order?
Yes, the Honorable Mackenzie is directly addressing the Honorable Benson, and there's no Workers' Party that Honorable Benson represents. It's the South African Communist Party.
Order. Order. Honorable order members, there was a point of order. That's a valid point of order. Honorable Minister, can I remind you that you need to speak to me and not directly to a member? Honorable Gainsu, is that, do you have a point of order? Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Minister, you may continue.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Via you, it was the Honorable member via you who's an elected leader of a party that represents workers. On the 1st of May, those workers would have paid more for lunch, for sports equipment, because of a decision that they took to vote for the increase in VAT. That is the truth and nothing but the truth. If the DA, the party that we represent, has not taken this matter to court, that workers on the 1st of May would have paid more for every single thing in this country. And that is the truth and nothing but the truth. Honorable Stoffels, via you, Honorable Speaker. Perhaps let me start with Honorable Kondo.
Honorable Minister, please take your seat. Honorable Jacobs, is that a point of order?
Just wanted to know, is the minister, will you take a question?
Honorable order members, order. Honorable members, there was a point of order. The honorable minister indicated previously that is not prepared to take any further questions. But because you rose on a point of order and allowed that, I'm going to continue with the parliamentary process. Honorable Minister, are you prepared to take a question?
No, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Jacobs, the Minister is not prepared to take a question. Honorable Minister, you may continue.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. But I'm going to repeat the point. The point is, if the DA did not take this matter to court, these honorable members and the parties that they are presented would not have capitulated, did a 360-degree turn at midnight last night. But Honorable Nkondlo has talked about low economic growth. Why do we have low economic growth? One word, ANC. The reason we have low economic growth is because of the ANC. In 2018, we had low economic growth. And what was the ANC's answer? VAT increase from 14% to 15% to plug a 50 billion rand hole caused by who? The ANC. A singular problem in this country, the ANC. So we, again, honorable members, have saved the country of all their problems caused by the ANC. The honorable member again talks about the poor. Why did we suddenly not care about the poor? It was us who care about the poor. It was us who raised the issue of PRASA was going to fail. The ANC has allowed PRASA to fail over the last 10 years. The ANC that gave us Jacob Zuma, the ANC has allowed Transnet from the best performing port in the country, in the world, top 10, to now number 325 of 326. The ANC. So the reason we are in this mess is because of the ANC. And we are the ones digging our way out of the hole that they created. So the poor should thank us for stopping this gravy train, which the ANC wanted us to go further down the drain. She talks about redistributing wealth. Taxing the poor is not redistributing wealth. Additional 0.5% on services for the poor is not redistributing wealth. It's killing the poor by the ANC. Honorable members, it is us in the Western Cape that spend 80% of our budget on the poor. 215 billion rand of our 280 billion rand is spent on the poor by this DA-led government. She talks about tariff imports and the effects of AGOA, where she was going to before she ended the speech. But what was the cause of that? The ANC. Solely the ANC that we in this mess. So yes, we are been fighting for the poor for the last 30 years and continue to fight for the poor. Honorable Stoffels, the crisis, via you speaker, caused by the ANC. The VAT increase, Honorable Stoffels, by you, Speaker, was going to harm the working class, and the DA saved the working class again
Honourable
because of the
Minister,
ANC.
please take your seat. Honourable Stoffel, is that a point of order?
Thank you, Speaker. Yes.
What's your point of order?
My point of order is the minister must not personalize it to me. He must address my speech through my party, which means he must use ANC and not beauty. Thank you. Speaker,
Order.
can you protect me?
Order. Order. There is a point of order. Honourable Honourable Stoffel, the minister, and I listened carefully, addressed through me to Honourable Stoffel because you made the input, and the minister is responding to inputs made. So that is not a point of order. Honourable Minister, you may continue.
Thank you very much. And can I remind this House, it is this city of Cape Town that currently provides the most free basic services in South Africa. Yesterday was World Book Day, and I'd encourage members to go and read. The highest free water output in this country, city of Cape Town. The highest lifeline electricity, city of Cape Town. Most pensioner benefits, city of Cape Town. 100% rates rebate, city of Cape Town. Infrastructure budget, the most spend of infrastructure budget in South Africa, city of Cape Town. Clean audit, city of Cape Town. 750 kilowatts electricity, city
Honourable
of Cape
Minister,
Town.
your time has expired. Please
Let me
conclude.
end off. The reason we are, Honourable Speaker,
Order.
as I conclude,
Order.
the only city working for the people in this country is the DA-led city of Cape Town. Thank you.
Order, members. Honourable members, interjections are allowed, but like you cannot be shouting and trying to shut down free speech in this very august house that we are elected to protect. This is order. This is the very space for different views and opinions. That's the beast of parliament. But the way that this is not a school playground. You cannot shut down each other by trying to shout over and on. I mean, it's unacceptable. I've always said, and from the beginning said, that I will protect your right for free speech. I will protect your right to have an opportunity in terms of the parliamentary rules and standing rules and procedures. But I'm not going to stand for you affecting the decorum of the House. With that being said, honourable members, that concludes the debate on this topic. We now proceed to interpellations as printed on the order paper or the question paper in terms of Rule 197. And I recognize the Minister, Minister Wenger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Teenage pregnancy remains a significant public health and social concern globally, with far-reaching consequences for young mothers, their families, and communities. Adolescent mothers often face challenges such as interrupted education, limited economic opportunities, and increased health risks for both themselves and their children, including an increased risk of maternal mortality, premature birth, low birth weight babies, and neonatal mortality. In South Africa, teenage pregnancy is significantly higher than the global average and continues to impact adolescent health and development, despite ongoing efforts to improve contraceptive access and reproductive health education. Data within the Western Cape indicates an overall increase in deliveries among young and teenage women across most districts from the 2022-23 to the 24-25 financial years. with the total number of adolescent deliveries rising from approximately 10,488 in 2022 to 12,750 in 2024. When broken down by age, deliveries among 10 to 14-year-olds have remained relatively stable at approximately 360 deliveries per year, whereas deliveries among 15 to 19-year-olds have consistently risen. Some districts, especially in urban areas, have experienced increases over 10% between 2022 and the 2024 financial years, indicating that a significant proportion of teenage pregnancies occur in older adolescents, reinforcing the need for targeted interventions. For women aged 15 to 19, several districts have recorded notable increases in deliveries, particularly in the Tygerberg and Mitchells Plain sub-districts in the city of Cape Town, while the West Coast district has shown slight declines. The overall trend suggests a rise in teenage pregnancies, particularly in the city of Cape Town, Cape Winelands district, and Garden Route district. Addressing the prevalence of teen pregnancies is not solely a health issue, it is a shared responsibility between parents, communities, and government. It remains a complex issue with several factors contributing to the increasing adolescent pregnancy rates. Limited contraceptive uptake and accessibility remain significant challenges, as many young people face barriers such as stigma and misinformation from their communities and families, while clinic accessibility has also been raised as an area of concern. Additionally, gaps in comprehensive reproductive education may contribute to the rise, as some adolescents lack accurate knowledge about contraception and reproductive health. At the same time, teenagers who do not have supportive parents or caregivers may be more likely to engage in risky sexual behavior. Economic and social factors, including poverty, a lack of opportunities, and peer influences, may also play a role in driving up teenage pregnancy rates, particularly in urban areas. Sexual and gender-based violence, which place teenage girls at a higher risk of unintended pregnancies, is also a contributing factor. While there are efforts across the entire Western Cape government to prevent teen pregnancies and to support young mothers, the Western Cape Department of Health and Wellness is addressing this through strengthening existing interventions and implementing new strategies to curb teenage pregnancies. A key initiative is the establishment of youth zones at healthcare facilities. Thoughtfully designed, and staff are trained to offer compassionate, non-judgmental, and confidential support and medical services specifically tailored to adolescents. Furthermore, community involvement, including peer-led initiatives, parental engagement, and collaboration with schools is essential in fostering long-term behavioral change and awareness. In conclusion, the data underscores the growing challenge of teenage pregnancies, with an overall rise in deliveries among young women between 2022 and 2024 years. While some districts have seen reductions, others continue to report increasing numbers.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Your time has expired. You'll get another opportunity.
Emphasizing the need for sustained and enhanced interventions. Thank you.
Thank you. I recognize the Honourable Windvogel. Honourable Windvogel. Honourable Windvogel, do you need a podium? Can we get the podium, please? Honourable Windvogel, you may continue.
Baie dankie, Speaker. Speaker and honourable members and the people of the Western Cape. Minister of Health, my question remains, where is Tandi? I think Tandi is still where she was, in the informal settlement with 2 kids at the moment. I rise today as a representative of the African National Congress, but more importantly, as a parent and a concerned member of society. What we are witnessing across the Western Cape is not just troubling, it is a crisis, and we cannot afford to stay silent. In 2023, a total of 9,885 babies were born to girls between the age of 10 and 19 in our province. Of these, 281 were children aged 10 to 14. These are not statistics. These are children, young girls who should be in school, playing with other children and dreaming about their future. Instead, they are being forced into motherhood. In our country, a 10-year-old cannot legally consent to sex. These are not cases of young love. These are acts of statutory rape, and they must be treated as such. From where I stand, there are 281 possible rapists walking freely among us. While the girls they abuse are left with the physical and emotional burden of raising children. Speaker, teenage pregnancy is not just a health issue. It is a safety, education, and justice issue. It reflects the deep failures in our social systems. Poverty, poor access to clinics, limited sex education, and the absence of coordinated government actions. In the Cape Winelands, adolescents' pregnancies have increased by 26% over the past 3 years. Many of these girls come from farming towns where poverty, overcrowded homes, boredom, and poor access to healthcare created the perfect storm for exploitation. And yet, where is the urgent response from this government? Where is the coordinated plan to protect our girls? Where is the outrage? Why is the Premier, who always throw R1 billion to solve Western Cape problems, silent on this matter? This silence clearly shows that he is not concerned, nor does it care. And this is because it is the children of the poor, the children of the domestic and farm worker that are affected by this. Honorable MEC, I ask you, what is the real numbers, especially in the poor rural communities? What is your department and provincial government doing to prevent this strategy from continuing? This is not just a health issue. This is a human rights crisis. It demands urgency, political will, and an interdepartmental response. We must act now before we fail even more children. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Van Vogel. I recognize the Honorable Boyson.
Deputy Speaker, as policymakers, there are issues which you should not and never politicize. This matter is one of those matters that we should not politicize. The prevalence of teenage pregnancies. Instead, Deputy Speaker, we should use the information provided by Minister Wenger so that we can advocate for a meaningful reforms that would deal with the scourge of teenage pregnancies. Deputy Speaker, the ANC have demonstrated a lack of seriousness regarding socio-economic challenges facing our communities. This teenage pregnancies, this is the root that drives teenagers to this. There's been questions about the Thandi matter. Mr. Deputy Speaker, let me tell you, there are Thandis out there because of the 350 grants that entice the unemployed youth to go and make money on matters which are not what they have planned for, Deputy Speaker. So, Deputy Speaker, Deputy Speaker.
Order, members.
Deputy Speaker, if we grow this economy, if we create jobs for the teenagers, they would be busy building their future instead of looking and be enticed with grants, because the grants are based on how many children that they are mothering. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Boyson. I recognize the Honorable Jacobs. Honorable members, I would not want to start naming members. Let us. You have the floor, Honorable Jacobs.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Speaker, while we notice the... guys.
Order, Honorable members. Honorable Jacobs, you may proceed.
They must bring it back. Yes.
You may
must
proceed,
protect me,
Honorable
Speaker.
Jacobs.
Okay, here we go. Speaker, while we notice the ongoing efforts, teenage pregnancies in the Western Cape remains a challenge. Now, we can report that teenage pregnancies has risen from 26.66% over the past 3 financial years, with 10,277 young women giving birth in 2024, including one case of an 11-year-old mother. Now, Speaker, the city of Cape Town has recorded the highest number of teenage pregnancies, followed by Cape Winelands. But my question is always, why would the DA drop the ball when it comes to teenage pregnancies? Is it maybe the reason why they continuously to protect these sex predators? Speaker, the importance of comprehensive and sex education, community involvement in addressing socio-economic factors that contributes to teenage pregnancies is of utmost importance. But cancelling 2,400 teachers posts for 2025 will definitely worsen the situation. Speaker, teenage pregnancies does not happen in isolation. There's multiple factors that contributes to high teenage pregnancies. We're all aware teenagers do not receive proper sex education at schools or at home, and misinformation about contraception leads to unprotected sex. In some cases, many schools don't teach students about reproductive health and family planning. Poorer communities have higher rates of teenage pregnancies, and girls often engage in transactional relationships like sugar daddies, for financial support. Limited resources and job opportunities result in early motherhood as an unintended consequence. For example, when a young colored woman or colored girls in Mitchells Plain don't get placement in high schools, they end up selling their bodies to foreign nationals in town center or prostituting around the promenade. This results in teenage pregnancy, delivering HIV positive babies. Speaker, teenage mothers often experience stress, anxiety, and depression, and they may face stigma and discrimination from family and society. Nou, wat het die DA aangevang met al die teenage pregnancy programs wat ons gehad het, voor hulle die province oorgevat het?
Honorable
Speaker?
Jacobs, your time has expired.
Okay. That's fine. I'm done.
I now recognize the Honorable Christians.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, this teenage pregnancy is a whole of society approach. Although statistics are shocking, as the ACDP, we want to say a couple of things. It's all about values, and values provides a framework when you make decisions. The ACDP calls on bringing back religious instruction to schools. Bring back our Bible to the school. The Bible is clear when it says in Proverbs 22 verse 6, train up a child in a way he should go, even when he's old, he will not depart from it. Speaker, there's another quotation in the Bible that I want to give this afternoon, and it says a lot. Apostle Paul, in his first letter to the Corinthians, says, do you not know that your bodies are a temple of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, who you have received from God? You are not your own, you were bought with a price. There's value in teaching children the Bible and the Word of God. There's value because it's not about government or sections of government or society. We must come together and say, how can we help? Because it's a societal problem. It's not a government problem. We cannot blame the DA here and say it's your problem. They've got a role to play. But every mother, every neighbor has a role to play, because this is a serious problem. And the Word of God is very clear to say, train up your child in the way he should go, and he will not depart from it. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Christians. I recognize the Honorable Win Vogel.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, ek is so teleurgestel aan member Boyson. And I realize that is exactly what the DA thinks about our colored and black girls and our poor people. It's sexist, and his statement is disrespectful when it comes to this issue. Ons het die reaksie van die lid van die uitvoerende komitee aangehoor, die MEC, maar ek moet dit duidelik stel. Hierdie provinsie het nie 'n dataprobleem nie. Dit het 'n leierskapkrisis. Dit is nie genoeg om statistieke aan te haal terwyl kinders in stilte ly nie. Wat ons in die gesig staar, is nie 'n gesondheidskrisis nie. Dit is 'n sosiale toestand. En die DA-regering se versuim om met dringendheid samewerking en empathy op te tree, sê vir ons een ding, die lewens van arm meisiekinders in plattelandse en werksklasgemeenskappe tel eenvoudig nie vir hulle nie. Die departement van onderwys wil hê ons moet glo dat 10 swangerskap aan die afneem is, maar daardie prentjie is onvolledig. Dit wys net die meisies wat in die onderwysstelsel is, dit sluit nie diegene in wat uitval nie, wat nooit hoërskool toe gaan nie, of wat agter toe deure weggesteek word, uit skaamte of vrees nie. Maatskaplike werkers in gebiede soos die Cape Winelands sê vir ons iets heel anders. Hulle sê tot 60% van hierdie swangerskappe in sekere streke is as gevolg van seksuele misbruik. Dit was deur ouer mans. Gesinne trek klagtes dikwels terug omdat hulle finansiëel afhanklik is van die oortreder. Dit is nie net tragies nie. Dit is 'n verdoemende aanklag teen 'n samelewing en 'n regering wat sy mees kwesbare geval het. Wat ons nou nodig het, is in departemente, tele, oorlogskamer oor swangerskappe, tienerswangerskappe, gelei vanaf die hoogste vlak van provinsiale regering. Ons het 'n gekoördineerde reaksie nodig wat gesondheid, onderwys, maatskaplike ontwikkeling, SAPC, SAPD, gemeenskapveiligheid en moet saambring. Nie net in vergaderings nie, maar in daadwerklike aksie. Elke swangerskap onder die ouderdom van 16 moet onmiddellik tot 'n kriminele ondersoek lei. Ons het gesondheidsklinieke by skole nodig wat vertroulik reproduktiewe sorg, berading en voorbehoeding bied, veral in plattelandse dorpe en informele nedersettings. Mobiele kliniek moet plase en agtergeblewe gebiede bereik. Opleide maatskaplike konsultante moet in elke distrik wees met veilige ruimtes in elke skool. As hierdie krisis in welgestelde voorstede soos Constantia of Stellenbosch plaasgevind het, sou hierdie regering vinnig en met alles tot hul beskikking opgetree het. Maar omdat dit die armes en die swartes en die stemloses raak, bly hulle stil.
Your time has expired.
Die lewens van ons kinders hang daarvan af.
Honorable Van Vogel, thank you so much. I note the Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Department of Health and Wellness is somewhat of a mirror to society. Teenage pregnancies are a serious concern that each of us can play a role in tackling, as some of the honourable members have said or argued in the House. The causes of this are multifaceted and complex, but that doesn't mean that we can't work together to solve the problem. For our part, we're doing what we can to provide reproductive health services, and we're collaborating across government and society. This year, Dr. Masuda Paleka, a public health medicine specialist in the Klipfontein and Mitchells Plain subdistrict, received the Innovation Convention Award for leading a multi-sectoral initiative to reduce adolescent pregnancies. This project brings reproductive health services directly to young people, building their resilience and helping to prevent unintended pregnancies. Another way we're tackling teenage pregnancies is through deliberate programs on substance abuse. Teenagers who abuse drugs or alcohol may be more likely to engage in risky sexual behavior and have unintended pregnancies, amongst other serious social ills. In this new financial year, we are significantly scaling up interventions to tackle substance abuse amongst teens, which we believe will have a positive impact on violence and trauma, and similarly on teenage pregnancies that are related to substance abuse. Importantly, we're not doing this work alone. Departments like education and social development are key partners. The life orientation curriculum, for example, empowers learners to make responsible decisions about their reproductive health. At the same time, the Department of Social Development and its NPO partners are providing young and first-time mothers with counseling, psychosocial support, and links to additional services, helping young mothers not just to survive, but to succeed. In South Africa, the age of consent related to sexual acts is 16. Our staff are obligated to report to the South African Police Service any person younger than 16 presenting at one of the Western Cape's public facilities as a matter for investigation into statutory rape. It is then up to the police services and the National Prosecuting Authority to take the case forward, and why a multidisciplinary approach is needed and a whole of society approach. The Western Cape government remains committed to addressing the issue of teenage pregnancy through youth-friendly healthcare services, improved contraceptive accessibility, parental engagement, and expanded educational programs. At the same time, we as a nation need to take urgent steps to stop sexual and gender-based violence against women, and in particular, young and teenage women. Strengthening these initiatives will be critical in reducing teenage pregnancies and ensuring better health outcomes for adolescents in our province. The prevention of teenage pregnancies and support for young mothers is a shared responsibility, because when we work together across government, with families, communities, and civil society, we not only respond to the challenges that we face, but build a healthier and more resilient society for all.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. That is the end of interpellations. Honourable members, in terms of Rule 202, we will now deal with questions as printed on the question paper. I wish to remind honourable members once again that once the honourable minister has started to reply to the oral question as printed on the question paper, honourable members must use the chat facility for the sitting of the House and indicate that they want to ask a follow-up question. There are 4 opportunities for follow-up questions, by the honourable member who posed the initial question will have a first opportunity for a follow-up. Thereafter, other members are able to indicate. Honourable members, I now recognize the Minister. Minister Simmers is online.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Is it in order if I keep my camera off to ensure sufficient bandwidth to engage the member on the question?
All in order, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. And in terms of infrastructure, of which human settlements or housing is a component thereof, in the context of the member's question, I will respond to what is in implementation, what is in different components of planning for within this year, given that infrastructure itself has various aspects before we hit the ground running to actually ensure that we do lay the first brick in our projects. So there are 3 social housing projects currently under construction, which will deliver a total of 1,803 units in various phases over the next 2 financial years, being 2025, 2026, and 2026, 2027. These projects are the Conradi Park Phase 2 projects, which will deliver 659 units, the Regent Villas Extension 2 project, which is in Mitchell's Plain, that's 110 units, and the Somerset West project, which will deliver 1,034 affordable housing or social housing units. The planned completion of a total of 855 units falls within the 2025-2026 financial year. Other social housing projects are in various stages of planning and packaging, with their completion being dependent on conditional grant funding availability from the Social Housing Regulatory Authority, or SHRA, as we commonly call it. Currently in the planning and approval phase, because funding goes to this as well in the current financial year, there are the following projects, through you, Deputy Speaker, to the Honourable Member. Amandel Place, which is a housing development in Bialaha, it will yield 326 housing opportunities. There is the Oude Molen Precinct, which is a mixed-use development, which does include social housing, but will also have retail and office space, will yield 1,364 residential opportunities. 34% of these opportunities will be affordable housing, which does include social housing. In terms of the Stickland mixed housing development, it will yield 6,963 opportunities, of which a quarter or 25% are allocated for social housing. PMNI also recently announced the Leeuloop project in the inner city, which is one of 3 projects which is out to market. The other 2 are set to go to market in this financial year. And those 3 will yield a further 3,500 affordable housing opportunities, which does include social housing. Leeuloop, where we see that just under 50% of the total delivery capacity of that inner city site will be social housing. Then there's a development in Grassy Park, which will yield 319 housing units. Then there is a Tafelberg development key point, which we plan to present to the interested and affected parties in May, which also has a fair component of social housing linked to the project site. Together, Honourable Deputy Speaker, members of the House, these human settlement projects will bring private sector investment to the Western Cape at just over R1 billion, which I've just highlighted to the Honourable House. Another set of properties, which again falls within this financial year, which are at the initial stages of enablement. We are busy de-risking the sites, and we are doing an analysis of best use and delivery mechanisms, which does will include aspects of social housing, our Plantation Road, the Novo, the Government Garage Precinct, Mandarin Court, and also Hard Bay. And from Langebaan to Neisner, we also have 23 high-valued sites, again, which are going to be announced within the course of this year and go to market, which is why I'm announcing it as part of this answer. They are currently high-value properties in value of excess of 340 million, and they will include a spectrum of social services, which does include social housing as well. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize Honourable Jacobs, who posed the question. Do you have a follow-up question?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Minister, thank you for that answer. Much appreciated. What I want to ask is, with regards to social housing and affordable housing, we know that community always get a piece of the budget, when it comes to that. Will the Minister investigate what community is doing with all that money? Thank you.
I recognize the Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, and I thank the member for the question. Again, Honourable Member, SHRA, which is the Social Housing Regulatory Authority, does the accreditation of institutions such as Communicare, SOCO, and other social housing institutes across the country, which does mean that the exercise of oversight in terms of allocation and the expenditure of the grant funding, which does come through SHRA, is actually administered by the SHRA. As a province, we have a very limited role in this regard. We concur with the expansion or announcement of projects in terms of social housing, which means we do have to concur. We need to confirm it falls within the provincial housing development area in the city of Cape Town. It's a very good example. But where we have seen instances where there are questions pertaining to actions by Communicare and so forth, we do encourage, such tenants which feel affected to approach a free service, which is the Rental Housing Tribunal, where such matters are escalated in terms of possible allegations of abuse or misuse of the grant funding which the SHI receives from SHRA. We then address that at the MINMEC level, but we have a very limited role as province because the national entity, which is SHRA, which is the national entity of the National Department of Human Settlements, they ultimately need to ensure the effective use of the funding and that it remains within the parameters which all provincial MECs agreed to in terms of the parameters of expenditure, so to ensure that there is an adequate balance of probabilities across all 9 provinces in terms of the provision of social housing, which is a rental option. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I see the Honourable Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, to the Minister through you. Minister, are you able to perhaps outline for the House what some of the stumbling blocks are to when it comes to attempting to build more social housing? The Minister can perhaps just elaborate on those stumbling blocks.
I see the Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, we need to understand that the Western Cape is a province which, in terms of its social housing pipeline, can yield close to 10,000 if there was sufficient funding. So the first stumbling block in itself is sufficient funding through SHRA, which at the moment there are projections of actually the budget declining year on year in terms of social housing, which is why as a provincial department, we are looking at alternative partnerships to ultimately ensure that we can unlock a fair portion
Honourable
of
Minister.
our provincial pipeline. Sorry, Deputy Speaker.
If you are able to take your seat, I see the Honourable Stoffels.
Speaker, volgens mij is dit 'n nuwe vraag wat die chief op nou vra.
Honourable Stoffels, I have listened attentively in my opsomming. If I request a question with regards to planning, the stumbling blocks And any activities that was asked actually is tied to that one. So I will allow the question at this particular time. Do you have a follow-up after the chief whip? Minister, I recognize you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Chair, Deputy Speaker. Indeed, so that is the biggest stumbling block is adequate funding through SHRA, which ultimately provides the funding for social housing. The second problem is where sites are earmarked for social housing, the possible cost of the provision of bulk infrastructure. Hence, the Western Cape Provincial Department of Infrastructure successfully lobbied in the previous term for an increase in the geotechnical funding, which was way too low, which caused a stumbling block in terms of our ability to further accelerate landing bankable projects for implementation. The third objective is, of course, we need to be aware that the social housing sector globally is going through a very difficult period, given that they are heavily dependent on subsidized approaches where there's a component of open market and a component of state-assisted subsidization. The fourth obstacle, which we saw in Retreat, with the so-called project in terms of Steen Villa, is where tenants, because remember, social housing is a rental option, Honorable Deputy Speaker, where prior to the 2019 elections, the tenants who are actually renting it from the SHI were encouraged actually not to pay the monthly rental. That caused almost the implosion of one of the best functioning SHIs in the country, because the average cost or monthly cost for them to carry those who were not paying were close to 10 million rand per month. So we nearly saw the implosion of that specific SHI. And the fifth one, of course, Honorable Deputy Speaker, is when SHI seeks to approach the High Court for eviction orders once they've exhausted the legal processes. Again, during those periods, those tenants tend to stay in those units, or once they move out, they tend to damage those units. So there's a variable mixture of funding issues, sufficient budget or budget allocation by SHRA, but also the tenants or the end users or the recipients of the social housing grant, which actually ensures that they get rental at close to less than 50% of the market-related rental in certain areas. So this places a massive strain on the viability and feasibility into the future of social housing. Hence, when organizations who claim to be acting on the behalf of those who need social housing, they actually, they then, on the antithesis, encourage the invasion of sites earmarked for social housing, which causes further delays in the implementation stages of such a project, which in its nature then creates secondary expenses, which we see in the terms of security, which does add a further burden to our ability, together with the SHI and SHRA, to effectively ensure that the pipelines are unlocked, because that's unforeseen expenses in terms of the overall social housing sector. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I recognize the Honorable Marais.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I hope I'm audible.
You may proceed.
Thank you, and thank you to the Minister. Minister Simmers, you referred to De Novo as also a site that's been identified for housing development. I wanted to know, in terms of your plan with De Novo, does it also include the handing over of title deeds of the residents that are currently living on the De Novo site in the way going forward, in terms of your planning for social housing and making sure that our people are having access to adequate housing? Thank you.
I see the Minister.
Now, thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, indeed, we need to understand there's the historical component of De Novo, given its long history. It is the property does belong to the predecessor department of the Department of Infrastructure. The process of township establishment has been ongoing for a number of years, which will enable the subdivision of earths to ensure that the process of title deed ownership does then become feasible in the very near future. The other side of De Novo is where there's clearly usable land for social housing, which in itself is rental options. Again, the provision of bulk infrastructure is then linked to that. But that forms part of the broader precinct development in terms of township establishment to ensure that we deal with the historic components, because many of those families have been living there for multiple decades, so they can receive ownership from the provincial government. But on the other side, also setting up the social housing component, which we seek to develop there in the very near future. So the two go hand in hand. So I do welcome the question of the member. Thank you.
I see no further follow-ups in terms of question 1. I now recognize Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, for this opportunity to respond to the question from the Honourable Jacobs. Thank you for the question. The responsibility for maintaining and restoring local sports facilities resides with municipalities as outlined in Schedule 5B of the Constitution. Accordingly, the City of Cape Town and Beaufort West Municipality bear the primary obligation for the upkeep and upgrades of their respective facilities. However, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport maintains the implementation protocol agreement with the City of Cape Town to address matters of mutual interest, including sporting infrastructure in which matters as this are discussed. This matter will be raised at the City of Cape Town's next meeting. No dedicated funds were appropriated for the maintenance of the sports fields in Beaufort or Scottsdene. However, the department transferred 1.1 million rand for sport infrastructure to the Beaufort West municipality in March 2025, just a few weeks ago. While DCAS is not mandated for the direct maintenance of sports facilities, the department remains committed to collaborating with municipalities to ensure these facilities contribute effectively to ensure community development, social cohesion, and crime prevention initiatives. In conclusion, the department as a stakeholder in ensuring sport as a whole is promoted in the province will continue to engage municipalities to support their efforts in this regard.
I recognize Honorable Jacobs.
Thank you for that answer, Minister. Very good answer. I just wanted to know, is that still going to happen in this term or the next one?
We'll make sure it happens in this term, member.
See no further follow-ups. I see the Honorable Barnes.
Deputy Speaker, I take note of the response from the MEC. However, one would just want to understand that we know that the function of taking care of sports facilities is within local government, but as status quo is currently right now, majority of these stadiums are dilapidated. What's the role that the MEC and the department is going to take, or is it just going to be, no, it's within the local government? You are giving funding 1 million for kids to be participating in your mod centers or whatsoever sports, but where are they going to exercise that with that money? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Minister.
Thank you very much. That's such an important question, Honourable Member. One of the first things I did, and I can provide members of copies, is public information, is I've written to the National Minister last year in October, July, on the municipal infrastructure grant, because I share your concerns around it. It was discussed at the last MINMAC meeting, and I'm willing to share the minutes of that meeting as well, so the member can see I take this responsibility very seriously. And I've also written, to be honest, I've probably written to him 4 or 5 times. I'm willing to share those letters with you to address these matters. Because municipal infrastructure grant, if one were to go back in 2011, 2012, the National Sports and Recreation Plan, the former minister, which is now Secretary General of a party, took that matter actually very seriously. And that is part of, in November, 26th November, I was there, 25th November 2011, was part of the National Sport and Recreation Plan, that facilities is the core foundation of dealing with sport in the country. Sadly, many over post-decessors, if I can call it that, have never, as a national government, have never fully understood it the way that members understood it now, that function must be addressed where it belongs in sport. And I know my predecessors certainly take up this matter. We have now got an open door from the National Minister of Sport to address this matter. It was on the agenda on a MINMAC that was held a few weeks ago. It will be discussed again on the 5th and 6th. He finally opened the door, because that function, the core responsibility, must be with the people that understand sport. And it's this department that understand sport. We know there's also a new Minister of Local Government who's also seemed to have an open door on this matter, because if us as the sporting fraternity can finally deal with the budget, because the budget now sits at local government, it just sits with sport. So the sports can work with municipality on the matter, and that will finally deal with this matter in this country. The intention was there. That minister that was there in 2011 had a great intention. You know it is. He's now the Secretary General of that party. He had it, but that money, unfortunately, was ring-fenced. That Minister of Local Government didn't want to give the money to sport for whatever reason. That money is now sitting there at local government, ring-fenced, but it must come to us as sports people. So that door has now both been opened, and we just need to fine-tune it so we can finally address the lack of maintenance, all the infrastructure challenges that you fully understand what happens at local municipalities. Thank you.
I see no further follow-ups. I now see the Chief Whip in reference to question 3 and 4.
Honourable Speaker, yes, question 3, 4, and 7. The request is that those questions please stand over to the next sitting, and then also please take cognizance of the fact that question 12 has been withdrawn.
Duly noted. I see Honourable Minister Lont.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Honourable Kaiser Philander, thank you for the question and for continuously shining a spotlight on this. The SWIMS app and SWIMS will first be rolled out to the designated child protection organizations, NGOs that are designated to perform child protection services. The rollout plan will include the following: training on the use of the system, including on-site testing, linkage and development of workspaces for each NGO to ensure they can meet the system requirements, change management sessions with the organizations that are involved, provisioning of funding for smartphones based on budget availability. Then B, the Department of Social Development is supported by the Department of the Premier's Centre for E-Innovation with the rollout of the SWIMS app. The Department of Social Development received 4 million for the rollout for the 2025-2026 financial year, of which 2 million will be allocated for system development and training and 2 million for smartphones. Information captured on SWIMS will be utilized to report on social welfare services rendered by social workers, which are linked to the departmental objectives. This will strengthen monitoring and evaluation for improved service quality and improved geographic targeting of resources to meet the demand for services. Under C, cases will be recorded immediately from clients first reporting to the department to ensure continuity of case files. Information on previous interventions rendered by social service professionals will be available thereafter to help determine further interventions and services required by clients. Improving the quality of social services rendered to the clients, this is the ultimate goal. A single database for clients reduces the duplication of forms and therefore reduces waiting times for clients and reducing the amount of time spent by social workers on administration. This will free up more time for social workers to focus on psychosocial support for clients. The system ensures that legal frameworks and norms and standards are adhered to in all cases opened, which will further improve the thoroughness of these services. The system provides for client matters to be tracked, which will ensure improved turnaround times for the finalization of cases and improve quality control for the clients. As of 23 April 2025, so this was drawn yesterday, 1,067 social work professionals have been trained and are using SWIMS. 200,915 forms have been captured and 62,071 cases have been logged on the system. 1,924 cases have been closed, while 76,671 clients have been captured onto the system. Now, you might ask why cases have been logged are less than clients that have been captured on the system. But often you open a case and there's a mother and 2 or 3 minors, and then you will have more clients that's captured on the system under a single case. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I recognize the Honorable Kaiser Philander.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Thank you very much, Minister Lund, for your extensive response. I also welcome your your confirmation of the Premier's Department of E-Innovations continuous support and interventions accordingly. Honourable Deputy Speaker, through you to the Minister, given the digital divide in some communities, Minister, what measures are in place to ensure that NGOs with limited digital infrastructure or capacity are not left behind in the implementation of the SWIMS app? Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
I see the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Kaiser Philander. So when you have a one-on-one session with the individual, you need to be quite careful what you convey out of that meeting. But the Premier does have one-on-one sessions tracking our performance. And in our session that we had, he also continued or gave his continued commitment to supporting us in the rollout of the SWIM. So that's why we also want to thank him for that. And we will make sure that we, at all platforms, show how successful the app is, so that the Honourable Minister sitting next to me, if there's a few free rands, then we can advocate for that. That's why the more people we can get on the system, the more we can show the value of the system. And that speaks to the second part of your question. It is true that we first need to get our own house in order, make sure that all the DSD social workers or social work professionals are on the system. We then start rolling it out to the NGOs. We can't just have a shotgun approach. We started with one in Stellenbosch, Stelcare, and it looks like it's really going well. Then it will be a staggered approach. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that all designated child protection organizations, they are on the system, because that will just make sure that not a single person that's in the Western Cape, irrespective of where they live, in the most affluent or in the poorest areas, they are not left behind. Because if you move between areas, as many other people do, then you can immediately pick up that case by transferring it by the click of a button. So that's the hope. The big challenge is the capacity to further develop that. And for that, to the Minister of Finance and the Premier and all the colleagues that supported the 2 million rand for the development of the program. But we do need more. So that can take us to a certain point. And then also there's 2 million extra for the rollout. But if you work out, we fund about 1,100 social work professionals in the NGO space. If you multiply that by 6,000 rand, you will see that we need significantly more than the 2 million, almost just over 3 times the current budget. So we are trying to find alternative sources of income. We are engaging donors. Some NGOs are doing a great job trying to source funding themselves. And then we will also make sure that we come to the table and the opportunity presents that we'll put our case on the table why those few extra cents must be channeled toward DSD. Thank you.
I see the Honourable Kaiser Philander.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. And once again, Minister, thank you very much for the extensive response to the question. Perhaps just, Minister, if you can also inform the House, how will the department monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the app in improving service delivery and case management within the NGO sector? I think you've made mention of how it's done in terms of social workers using the app currently. And will these findings, I know through our parliamentary processes, obviously, in terms of oversight, the committee will have the opportunity to ask those relevant questions and actually go and see how it works practically within the sector. But will there be a mechanism within the department where members of the public will also perhaps have not insight, but will be able to monitor how successful this app is utilized in the NGO sector? Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I see the Minister.
Thank you. So currently, if we talk now on an average, the caseload is approximately 110 per social work professional. I mean, it gives and takes a bit. But to start off, we must acknowledge that social workers are really, they are amazing individuals, human beings that really keep society together at the seams. So the hope is that through using this app, digitizing the system, you will free up time to do more interventions, preventative services with the existing clients. However, it will also free up time so that you can actually maybe take on 1 or 2 extra cases. But that's not really the idea. We need to try and make sure that we prevent quality services. There are, however, individuals that might also be reporting cases, but not actively working on those cases. And through digitizing this system, you'll be able to see what progress there are on the different cases. Now, that's not something we just communicate to the public. That's something we will gladly come and report to the committee about. We will report on the overall statistics. And you're welcome to ask those questions. You're welcome to ask what is the impact or the caseload in a certain region, and how many extra cases have been taken on, or what's the turnaround time. Those are questions that we also ask because we need to be able that the system adds value. Because I am excited to seeing the rollout of SWIMS across the province, because then I want to see how our partners in the NGO space, how they capture the records, what's the progress in doing the interventions, how many cases can we close, how many families can we reunite again. So all of this gives us the power then to see what type of interventions need to be done in what areas. Over the December period, and I'm happy you can make a note, Chairperson, to maybe at the next committee meeting ask that. But off the top of my head, I know that in the West Coast, there was a certain problem, not problem, or type of case that was logged onto the system. In the Winelands, there was a different type of case logged onto the system. In Metro North, there was a different type of case. So then you suddenly see whether it is young children abusing alcohol or whether it's elderly or whatever the case is, do that preventative work before you get that peak periods. And that's what the system hopes to do. If you have data, you have information to make the decisions to do more interventions proactively. Thank you.
I see no further questions. I'll again see the Minister.
I do assume we're now on question 6, Deputy Speaker. Thank you. So the question is asking what progress has been made with the classification of social workers as essential service workers. The issue has been raised on various platforms by myself, and the Standing Committee on Social Development has written to the national government in this regard. And to this, I want to thank the committee and the committee members. To date, feedback is yet to be received from the national government on this. However, I also raised this in the National Council of Provinces and with the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development in the National Assembly. We have also raised this during the last MINMEC meeting, in which other MECs and our national counterparts agreed that it is a matter that should be raised with the necessary national officials. We will follow up on the progress of this request at the next MINMEC. Other Western Cape MECs have also shown their support for this call, and we want to thank those colleagues. If social workers are recognized as essential services, the Western Cape Department of Social Development could receive additional dedicated financial support from the National Treasury in the same way as education and healthcare professionals recently received to mitigate the impact of the budget cuts. And to that extent, I want to thank the Western Cape government, because even though it's not classified as essential services at a national level, this province sees social workers as essential and the money flows accordingly. It would enable the department to have more funding for other necessary social services, like the various DSD programs and funding for NGOs and NPOs to strengthen their work. Deputy Speaker, looks like that's the end. Thank you.
I see Member Philander.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Minister, thank you very much for the response. You've already covered me in terms of the various platforms that you've been advocating for this matter to come to conclusion or to come to decision. I'm just very interested to know, Minister, in terms of, you mentioned that there were from other provinces support as well for the classification accordingly. So is there an indication of a timeline? What is the urgency on national level to actually expedite and conclude on this matter? Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I see the Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson and Deputy Speaker. So I do think our National College might be preoccupied with the drafting of a new budget, but it is something that we will continuously push and make sure that it stays on the agenda. Credit to the colleagues from the other provinces. They immediately agreed that this is something that is worthwhile. Minister Tolashe was also there. She also agreed with it and said she will take it up. So I will make sure that we continuously raise that at any platform we've got. But I also do a call on colleagues from across the House, because this is, you get a lot of departments that say we look after the entire province, but this is one of those departments that I think we can take hands across the board and say, let's fight for this. So when colleagues have members of their own party who serves in the GNU, who serves in the opposition, you can also ask colleagues that serve on these platforms to please raise this issue, because if everybody pushes for it, we will get that change done. So it's not just a voice from the Western Cape. It affects every single one of our social workers in the Western Cape, but also the rest of the country. Thank you.
I see the Honourable Kaiser Philander.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Thank you so much for the response, Minister Lond. And I think when I look at Member Kampf, I'm sure he will, on the WhatsApp group, send a message there to the national counterparts to expedite the matter. Minister, thank you. You've made mention in your response also in terms of, my question was going to be in terms of the potential, the classification. What difference or will there be in the working conditions for social workers in terms of their remuneration, as well as what will the impact be on the retention of social workers? You've made mention of the additional financial support. You've also made mention of additional programs that would be able to be funded. Are there any other positive developments within the department should that classification happen? Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I see the Minister.
Thank you. This is a blessing sitting next to the Minister of Finance, who will quickly, it's like call a friend, those of you that followed that game show. So they have already put together a technical paper and a working group to work on what's the budgetary implications for this. As you well know, there's massive pressure on our social work professionals. And if we do get that extra funding, then we can just spread the load a bit better. And I did promise during the debate, when Honourable Comfort was so passionately down the wrong road in his speech, I promised him a book, and I did give that book to him. I did, however, change the book. So I gave him the book, Make Better Choices. But I do think on this, Honourable Comfort, do not even have to make a better choice. He's already on our side fighting to make social service professionals classified as essential workers. And I'm positive he has already sent off a text message to his national counterparts to fight for that as well. Thank you.
I see no further follow-ups. That concludes question number 6. I'll now go to question number 8, and I see Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. In relation to the question, in relation to the expansion of the Mass Participation, Opportunity and Access Development and Growth Program, also known as the MORT program, how will this be expanded in 25-26? The answer is in the 25-26 financial year, the department will expand the reach of the MORT program by absorbing the neighbourhood school program, increasing access from 181 to 315 school sites across the province. This approach ensures that more learners, especially in rural and under-resourced communities, benefit from the structured after-school activities without the need to create entirely new centres. The BPA, the expected outcomes from this investment, the department expects several outcomes from this approach: greater access to safe, structured after-school programs in more communities without the cost of duplicating services. Better use of resources without resources serving multiple schools in a coordinated way, supported by new service level agreement. Youth empowerment as more learners benefit from sports, arts, life skills, and mentorships, reducing the exposure to negative influences. Job creation with coaches employed and trained to deliver high-impact programs. Improve school attendance and performance, particularly in rural areas where recreation and development opportunities are limited. This strategy allows us to expand the footprint of the MOAT program quickly and efficiently, ensuring more learners are reached while strengthening community safety, well-being, and opportunity through a cost-effective, inclusive model. Thank you.
I recognize Honorable Walters. Do you have a follow-up question?
My follow-up question was very skillfully anticipated and already answered, so thank you very much.
I see the Honorable Quinsu.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The MEC made a very good point to say, key among other things, the program will create jobs, right? Based on projections, how many jobs will be created in this?
Thank you, honourable members. Certainly, I don't want to give the exact number because the member will hold me accountable, but I can make a guesstimate if you would like me to make a guesstimate. We've signed an agreement with Northleaf College, and the students studying at Northleaf College, for example, will go to our after-school program. So I estimate between, if you look at 181 to 315, probably 124 member, but again, that'll just be an estimate for now. Because I know you're going to hold me accountable for it, so. Thank you. Rightfully so.
I see the Honorable Quinsu.
Yeah, thank you very much, MEC. On these ambitious programs, are there any timelines, perhaps? I didn't get that.
Yes, honourable member, we're going to do it in this financial year. So from now until the end of March 2026, it will be done.
I see no further follow-ups on question 8. I see Honorable Minister Bartman.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. In relation to the question, Provincial Treasury engages regularly with municipalities through monthly monitoring and annual technical and strategic engagements in line with our vision to be a reliable and enabling partner. These interactions give Provincial Treasury a clear understanding of the challenges and opportunities facing municipalities. In response, Provincial Treasury implements targeted support and capacitation initiatives to strengthen institutional capacity and improve financial performance. This includes technical advice, training, peer learning, and where appropriate, financial assistance through the Western Cape Financial Management Capability Grant. These integrated support measures help municipalities identify viable projects and prepare credible, compliant funding proposals. As a result, applications submitted to the Provincial Treasury to meet key requirements, allowing for faster review and approval. This enables quicker implementation, more efficient grant spending, and improved delivery of essential services. Ultimately, the Provincial Treasury views our grant funding as a transitional tool aimed at fostering long-term self-sustainability within municipalities. While financial assistance provides some immediate support, the overarching objective is to enhance municipal capacity to independently manage their finances and infrastructure in the future. By strengthening institutional capabilities, promoting sound financial governance, and supporting the development of sustainable funding strategies, the overall goal is to enable long-term sustainability and growth. Formal in-year reporting against the Western Cape grant allocations for this particular grant has been institutionalized as part of the existing monthly and quarterly financial and non-financial reporting mechanisms provided for in respectively Section 71 and 52 of the Local Government Municipal Finance Management Act, or MFMA Act 56 of 2003. Provincial Treasury actively monitors these reporting instruments throughout the year to determine whether grant expenditure takes place in line with the commitments made in the project implementation plans, or proposals as some would call them. The reporting requirements are also included in the memorandum of agreement signed between the Provincial Treasuries and municipalities before funds are transferred. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MEC. Honourable Minister,
I recognize the Honourable Johnson.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Through you to the Minister. Minister Baartman, thank you for the comprehensive explanation as you always provide when we ask you a question. Deputy Speaker, Minister Baartman, if the Minister can please provide us with an example of a municipality within the Western Cape province that successfully managed to access some of the grant funding from the Provincial Treasury. Thank you.
I see the Minister.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. I do have the list for this financial year. I'm happy to also provide this to the committee should they need this. For example, for this 2025 financial year, Cederburg municipality is going to receive through this grant 2.5 million rand. This is for the installation of smart water meters for indigent customers. Matsikama is going to receive a total of 2.68 million rand. That's for 2 projects. That's for asset management system to assist them, and for the revenue enhancement for the replacement of induction meters. Then currently in phase 2 of that particular project. In Overstrand, they are receiving 672,000 rand for 2 projects. This is one for a feasibility study that they need for the credit control and debt collection unit. This is connected to revenue enhancement, as well as long-term financial planning, which is their second project. Hisakwa will be receiving just over a million rand for 3 projects. The first one is to assist them with a project on indigent management, which is 250,000 rand. The second one is for physical review and verification of infrastructure assets, 600,000 rand, and also a long-term financial planning program, which was 200,000 rand. Oudtshoorn is going to receive just also over a million rand for 3 projects. One is for a financial system development for the cost reflective tariff setting tool for that's 160,000 rand. For the smart meter replacement program, that's 800,000 rand, and also to support them with internal audit support, that's 100,000 rand. Overberg is going to be receiving 3.77 million rand. This is for 4 projects. The first one is 1.42 million rand for revenue enhancement and optimization for municipal health services, that particular project. 1.3 million rand for revenue compliance and tourism enhancements, also a revenue project. 750,000 rand for a feasibility study and business plan for the Elands Kraalmond Holiday Resort ownership restructuring, as well as 300,000 rand for revenue enhancement for a feasibility study for the establishment of a crematorium. Saldanha Bay will be receiving 2 million rand. That's for the installation of smart water meters within the municipal area to better assist the municipality to curb water losses. Kannaland will be receiving 500,000 rand for municipal performance management data system and rollout across municipal organogram. Just on Kannaland, this is separate to the fact that we're also assisting them with the financial recovery plan with National Treasury at the moment. Beaufort West will be receiving 495,000 rand for a comprehensive cost of supply study and revenue optimization in the changing energy landscape. So that's related to the energy. And this is also separate to the fact that we're assisting them with the financial recovery plan, as well as the fact that National Treasury, that we're working with National Treasury at the moment for funding for smart meters in the National Smart Meter program for them. The Central Karoo district is receiving 900,000 rand for 2 projects. This is to assist them with capacitating their budget and treasury staff on accounting and annual financial statement preparations, as well as for long-term financial planning project. And that one is 500,000. Prince Albert will be receiving 2.5 million rand for 3 projects. The first is 800,000 rand for compilation of long-term financial plan with cost-reflective tariffs. The second one, which is 700,000 rand, is revenue enhancement strategy with schedule and to make sure that the indigent verification system is in order. And a million rand for procuring and installing prepaid water meters and electricity meters. And Laingsburg will be receiving 540,000 rand for restructuring and modeling of water tariffs to optimize revenue and enhance water management. And this brings us to a total of 18.672 million rand. And this, I just need to mention that this particular grant is separate to the finances that we've put aside to help the municipalities with the financial recovery plans and those we work with National Treasury on. And we try our best to bring this together with the Department of Local Government and the National Treasury so that we don't overlap our respective programs for municipalities. And again, municipalities for the second year and the third year, those particular applications obviously will come up. The Provincial Treasury, we are currently busy with municipalities in what we call our strategic integrated municipal engagements at the moment to try and understand what the possible needs for the upcoming year might be. Thank you.
I see no further follow-ups. In this regard, I now recognize Honourable Minister Marie.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and thank you, Member Walters, for the question. As the lead coordinator of the province's anti-gang implementation plan and the facilitator of the Anti-Gang Priority Committee, the department provides strategic guidance and alignment between the various stakeholders to strengthen interventions and support to the Western Cape Education Department. The quarterly priority committee meetings provide departments with an opportunity to share the work that they are currently implementing. In addition, the participating departments use these meetings to discuss and unblock their challenges. Via the anti-gang, the department prioritizes the alignment of interventions to strengthen efforts to address gangsterism. This platform allows departments, including the Western Cape Education Department, to engage senior officials from different stakeholders on the kind of support that is required. At this strategic level, the department has engaged Western Cape Education Department on the current pressing issues relating to gangsterism and are in a process of arranging meetings at a local level to explore and discuss localized issues and possible interventions plans to respond to gangsterism. Furthermore, the department continues to engage and encourage various stakeholders to contribute towards addressing gangsterism because as law enforcement alone is unable to address this social issue. Also, the department is in the process of exploring ways to strengthen preventative efforts to address gangsterism. Thank you.
I recognize the Honourable Walters.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Minister made reference to a strategic approach and then expanding it to a local level, which I hear as taking it away from, let's say, just a provincial globular level, taking it down to a precinct level, school level, to make localize the approach more. How do you envisage particularly getting the SAPS station commanders on board in directly assisting schools, the safety plans at school? And how do you envisage that happening?
I see the Minister.
Thank you, Member Walters. I have to say that we, at this moment, have a very good relationship with some of our station commanders. I would say almost 60 to 70%, and that they already compiled, I want to say, a pamphlet, how the schools must also, how they will assist the schools, and I can avail that for you, but it's an ongoing process, and it's still, we must work very hard on our relationship, but so far, so good. Thank you.
I see the Honourable Nkwensu.
Thank you very much, MC. Disappointingly, your response are high-level responses, but lack practice. Are these responses effective? If so, give us an example where they were employed. If you like, use Costine or the Kraaifontein as one of the gangster-infested areas. Thank you.
I see the Minister.
Thank you, Member, for the question. I just want to say that we will have our meeting with our LEAP officers and the structures on the 5th of May. to specifically address Kraaifontein and the areas that we're very concerned about, specifically with the schools. And as I've said, we have a committee, our anti-gang strategy committee, that works close with the communities, with the officials of the education department to address these problems.
I see the Honorable Quinsu.
Chair, the question was not in the event, right? There is gangsters. There has been gangsters. Therefore, what has been the response and practical, right? Not what you are going to do. What have you done thus far, given the rate of gangsters and how working class schools of Scotland as an example? For instance, Kraaifontein was just an example. You know, in your response, perhaps one was expecting any area where there is gangsterism. Here in Boingerville and Case River, I mean, no. Is there a fair, for instance? No, what is this? Bishop Levis, for instance, right? Could have been one of the examples. So I was not confining my question to specific Scotland. I was citing Scotland and Kraaifontein as just as an example. Please be as practical as possible. Thank you very much, Thomas, for this important question.
I see the Minister.
Thank you. I think I will address your question in your question that you asked to me, question 11. But practically, it is we don't have, I don't want to say we don't have oversight or real input in the school safety. We have LEAP officers that's working in our schools as peace officers. And that's how we address it from Fox at this time. We've got a coordinating function and we've got oversight over SAPs. And that's quite limited for us if we only have the oversight of SAPs to get them there. But we try our best with our law enforcement. We work very close with the city and all the law enforcement and the neighborhood watches and our CPFs to address the problem.
I see the Honorable Bang.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, my question would be just one. Understanding maybe fairly these anti-gang meetings and strategies a new one. Are there any success stories that perhaps the MEC would share with us from these anti-gang meetings that they are having in the pamphlets? Thank you very much.
I see the Minister.
Thank you. I don't have it on my hand now, but I will provide you with the information. Okay.
Honorable members, that concludes question 11. I now see question 10. I now see the Minister again.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Member, for this question. The Department of Police Oversight and Community Safety encourage the schools' involvement in broader community safety structures, such as community policing forums and accredited neighborhood watches. The LEAP officers are deployed in the Philippi East Police Precinct and patrol the area frequently. The Zanemfundo Primary School is in Philippi East Policing Precinct, and the department works with SAPs and civil society to improve community police relations and build local safety partnerships, including supporting CPFs with guidance and funding. Subsequently, during the 2024-25 financial year, the Philippi East CPF applied for funding to run a drug awareness campaign. As part of ongoing efforts, the CPF also plans to engage with primary school learners to raise crime awareness and encourage prevention efforts. A community march to show opposition against crime in the area is planned for the 3rd of May 2025. At a strategic level, POX is the lead coordinator of the Western Cape Anti-Gang Implementation Plan. The department has commenced with conducting qualitative research to gain deeper insight into extortion and other related safety issues in murder priority areas. The findings of the research are being discussed at the strategic and local level. The main aim is to translate the findings into action and contribute towards a data-led and evidence-informed implementation plan to address these social challenges. Furthermore, the department coordinates Anti-Gang Priority Committee, which is a transversal strategic meeting in which different departments participate and explore ways of how to strengthen responses to extortion and gang-related issues. Such efforts align interventions and identify priorities through a whole-of-government approach. Finally, the department will be hosting a high-level multi-sectoral summit to develop a strategic and coordinated response to the escalating extortion crisis in the Western Cape towards the end of the first quarter. It will be on the 17th of June. The summit will convene key government agencies, law enforcement agencies, business leaders, and civil society to formulate cross-cutting interventions and sector-specific solutions. The summit aims to establish actionable measures that enhance law enforcement effectiveness, improve intelligence sharing, disrupt illicit financial flows, and protect businesses and communities, educational institutions from extortion-related threats. Thank you.
Honorable Nkwensho, there's 40 seconds. You can go.
Unlike Honorable Walters, I do have substantive follow-ups. What accountability mechanisms are in place to ensure interdepartmental cooperation yields long-term, systematic results in dismantling the socio-economic conditions that fuel gang activities and school-based extortion? And are there any CCTV cameras? If so, are they working? Because the city of Cape Town is commended for having CCTV cameras. To what extent are they aiding to address the issue of extortion in the surroundings? Thanks.
Honorable Nkwensho, I have permitted your question to be asked. That has now indicated that the time has lapsed. In terms of the process, that is the end of oral questions. Outstanding replies will be printed in the Hansard. Members, in terms of Rule 145, there will now be an opportunity for member statements as per the rules, and members are familiar with the 2-minute rule. I now recognize the DA.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I rise in honour of a cultural treasure whose career is nothing short of revolutionary. Dr. David Kramer does not simply create music, he crafts cultural experiences. He dares to step outside the mainstream, giving voice to the often overlooked stories of the Cape Flats and the Karoo. He celebrates the unique dialects, the vibrant characters, and the resilient spirit of our province in a way that had never been done before. His early work, particularly his albums Bakhat and the O Kalahari, introduced a fresh, authentic sound to South African music. He blends folk, rock, and traditional Afrikaans melodies with a raw honesty that resonated deeply with the audiences. He does not shy away from social commentary, using his music to shed light on the realities of apartheid and the struggles of everyday South Africans. Beyond his solo work, David Kramer's collaborations with the late Tali Peterson were groundbreaking. Their musicals, including District 6, the musical Cat and the Kings, were not just theatrical productions, they were cultural milestones. They captured the soul of the Cape, bringing stories to stage with a power and authenticity that moved audiences to tears and laughter alike. David Kramer's achievements extended beyond the stage and the recording studio. He's a champion of local talent, a mentor to aspiring artists, and a tireless advocate for the preservation of our cultural heritage. He understands the power of art to bridge divides and to heal the wounds. His work is a testament to the transformative power of storytelling and the enduring spirit of the human heart. We honor David Kramer not just for his talent, but also his courage, his vision, and his unwavering commitment to telling the stories of the Western Cape. His work will forever be part of the soundtrack of the Western Cape, no, of South Africa. We extend our biggest congratulations to him on being awarded the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports Living Legend Award at a recent special tribute performance hosted and performed by his thespian children. I thank you.
I now see the ANC.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy Speaker, there's a disturbing pattern in this legislature. where chauvinistic tendencies by male DA members are becoming a daily occurrence. Female members, particularly from the opposition parties, including the ANC and EFF, are subjected to this regressive behavior, which is both distasteful and unacceptable. Such conduct has no place in our parliamentary democracy, Deputy Speaker. Time and again, women in this House endure ridicule, unfair targeting and baseless attacks from male counterparts, especially within the DA. Just recently, Member Van Vogel was maliciously asked to apologize simply for exercising her democratic right, a clear example of systematic disrespect women face here. This recalls previous incidents where the EFF members were mocked by male MECs and even the Premier. Honorable Deputy Speaker, we cannot allow this legislature to become a hostile space for women. This is not apartheid. This is a democracy where women have an equal right to participate without fear or belittlement. The role of women is no longer confined in the kitchen. We are lawmakers, leaders, and must be treated with dignity. We call on you, Deputy Speaker, to intervene decisively. We also demand that the DA male members and MECs reflect on their conduct and correct it immediately. Respect for women is non-negotiable. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I recognize the PA.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. That the House notes and congratulates 3 extraordinary BMX riders who completed an inspiring journey from Burgersfort in Limpopo to Cape Town, arriving safely in our city. Further notes that the journey was not only a physical and mental feat of endurance, but a powerful symbol of hope and determination. Through their efforts, they successfully raised funds and created awareness for their local BMX club, a vital initiative that engages young people in sport, discipline, and community, acknowledges that their commitment to a positive part offers a real alternative to the cycle of crime, gangsterism, and drug abuse that too often plagues our communities. These young athletes are more than just riders. They are role models, mentors, and ambassadors for change. Therefore, I move that this House congratulates these BMX riders on their achievement and commends them for their contribution to youth development, crime prevention, and social upliftment. Their message is clear. With the right support and opportunities, our youth can rise above their circumstances and achieve greatness. Thank you.
I recognize the DA.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, Cape Town's greatest treasure is not only its people, but the extraordinary natural beauty that surrounds us. From the majesty of Table Mountain to the biodiversity that thrives in our parks, our wetlands, and our coastlines. Yet, we're increasingly seeing the slow but steady encroachment of urban sprawl into these protected and environmentally sensitive areas. Developments, while often necessary and beneficial, must not be allowed to chip away at the ecological boundaries that safeguard our natural heritage. Our natural spaces are more than just scenic backdrops. They're vital ecological systems that filter pollution, support biodiversity, ensure environmental resilience, and serve as a refuge for wildlife. As we meet the real and urgent need for housing and infrastructure, we must ensure that our regulatory frameworks, like the urban edge and environmental zoning, remain strong and are enforced. Development must be both smart and sustainable, enhancing our city without eroding what makes it extraordinary. Speaker, millions visit Cape Town each year because of its natural splendor, and it's our duty to ensure that this heritage is preserved and not paved over. So let us all recognize and thank the local organizations, the residents' associations, and the environmental groups who act as the vigilant eyes and ears of our communities, holding us all accountable and helping to ensure that the delicate balance between development and conservation is never lost. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I recognize the EFF.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Deputy Speaker, the EFF would like to take this opportunity to send its heartfelt condolences to the greater community of Roman Catholic Church and the Christian community at large on the passing of Pope Francis, who passed away on this past Easter Monday at the age of 88 years old. Pope Francis will be remembered for being a man of faith who was devoted to the cause of the poor, marginalized, and those suffering from oppression. His devotion to faith made him to constantly inquire about the well-being of others from different religious backgrounds, irrespective of their beliefs. Pope Francis used his final platform on Easter Sunday at the St. Peter's Square in the Vatican City, calling for the ceasefire and peace in the apartheid-stricken Gaza or Palestine and against the people of Palestine. Deputy Speaker, unlike the members of certain political parties such as the DA and the ACDP, among others, who recently visited Israel in a one-sided so-called fact-finding mission and then came back to report that they found no apartheid against the people of Palestine, these members of political parties are similar to certain people from other parts of the world who continue to allow the mass slaughter of Palestinian people to continue. The Pope used his past 18 months making daily phone calls to religious groups based in Palestine until his last day, asking them to remain strong, grow in faith, and not to lose hope. He was also an outspoken critic of Israel's siege on the territory, unlike others here who continue to keep a blind eye with regards to what happened in Palestine or what is currently happening in Palestine, like they did during apartheid in South Africa. In conclusion, Deputy Speaker, it is important to mention that to the people of Palestine, the Pope served as a reminder to them that they were not forgotten. His flesh might have rested, but his soul will forever live amongst the people of Palestine. Thank you, Speaker.
I see the NCC.
Speaker, the NCC rises today with concerns and unhappiness regarding the increase in evictions from properties in the Western Cape. But more so, Speaker, the clear victimization of our colored people who seems to be the target of this apartheid-style evictions. Speaker, never in my life or in the history of the Western Cape have I seen the amount of colored people homeless and living on the streets. Never. Speaker, nou net die ander dag toe praat ek met my auntie en sy was pad van die forceful removal. Sy het dit ge-experience die tyd toe hulle my oupa se grond afvat deur die white regime. En sy sê vir my, julle moet mooi kyk, die mense is besig met forceful removals in the form of evictions. En dit is waar. Speaker, the Premier has proudly announced at the SOPA in February the speed at which the Western Cape is growing, but it means informal settlements are growing at a speed. The City of Cape Town already spent over 1 billion on servicing informal settlements in the City of Cape Town, paid by residents who are staying in the City of Cape Town, where pensioners are being forced to pay rent, pay high levies for water, overcharge electricity tariffs, and if not, the poor pensioners are found guilty for tampering with electric boxes, which we found not to be true. Speaker, these people, they get heavy fines that they can't even pay. Surely they will face evictions, or the sheriff will come and repossess their goods. Now, Speaker, the people of the Western Cape are being forced out of their homes due to rising costs. Now, being forcefully removed by the apartheid government, colored people were placed in areas where they did not want to be. And 60 years later, the NP, in the form of the DA, has still not addressed the elephant in the room. Speaker, the minute the Democratic Alliance embrace land expropriation without compensation and relocate colored people back to their land, there will be no more evictions or homeless people. Amase.
I recognize the ANC.
Deputy Speaker, honorable members, it is a deep concern that I rise today to address an ongoing escalating violence in the taxi industry, particularly in Cape Town, Nyanga, and Vrystaat and Capricorn. These incidents are not only undermining public safety, but also threatening the livelihoods of many South Africans and people of the Western Cape in particular, who rely on this industry for daily transport and employment. In Nyanga East, we have witnessed a series of targeted killings, including the recent and cowardly assassination of Mr. Titi. This tragedy follows the touching of approximately 18 taxis and the killing of a security guard few months ago. These are not random acts of violence. They are well-calculated attacks that demand a clear and coordinated response from the highest level of government. We must, however, commend a decisive intervention by the South African Police Service, whose operations earlier this year led to confiscation of 13 rifles and 7 handguns in Nyanga. Their swift action, no doubt, prevented further bloodshed. We are also deeply concerned, though, that the much celebrated CCTV surveillance infrastructure within the city of Cape Town continues to fail to aid meaningfully to meaningfully aiding the investigation of these heinous crimes. In a city that prides itself on innovation infrastructure, this failure is both unacceptable and alarming. And those responsible of the political and administrative oversight of this CCTV surveillance must be held accountable. Deputy Speaker, the situation in Capricorn has similarly deteriorated into a state of a crisis. Gang activity and taxi-related ructions have turned these communities into zones of fear and instability. While the deployment of police resources has brought some degree of temporary calm, this is not sustainable solution. It is for this reason that we call upon Minister Mkhunu and Chris to take urgent action and coordinate action to respond to this problem. The indifference of the DA-led provincial government to the crisis unfolding in this area demonstrates serious void of political leadership in both political oversight and mobility.
Honorable Nkwensu.
Given the trends and patterns of the taxi violence.
Honorable Nkwensu, your time has expired.
Of the Advocate
Honorable Nkwensu.
Commission of Inquiry. Thank you very much.
I recognize the DA.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Today I rise to welcome a significant victory, not just for the Democratic Alliance, but for millions of South Africans who were set to bear the brunt of an unjust and ill-considered VAT increase. Thanks to sustained political and legal pressure from the DA, the proposed 0.5 percentage point hike in VAT has been scrapped. This is a win for fairness, a win for working families, and a win for those who cannot afford to shoulder more burdens. From day one, the DA stood firm. We said this hike was regressive. We said it was poorly timed, and we took action, filing legal challenges, raising our voices in Parliament, and standing with the people of South Africa. Because while others shrugged, we stepped up. We govern with principle, and we fight for the vulnerable. This outcome shows what determined leadership and active protest can achieve. It proves that government decisions can be challenged, and that when they are unjust, they must be challenged. Let this be a clear message. The DA will continue to fight for a government that balances its books, not on the back of the poor, but through fiscal discipline, ethical leadership, and people-first policies. This is a victory for every South African who believes that government must listen and that public pressure still has power. I thank you.
I recognize the Freedom Front Plus.
Baie dankie Speaker. Speaker, die Vryheidsfront Plus doen 'n beroep op die DA om konsekwent op te tree as hy werklik omgee vir die armes en die middelinkomste belastingbetalers. Die stad Kaapstad munisipaliteit onder die DA beheer is tans in die proses om buitensporige verhogings in eiendomsbelasting te implementeer wat vanaf die 1 Julie 2025 van krag sal wees. Die voorgestelde begroting weerspieël verhogings wat dubbel die inflasiekoers is, veral in terme van eiendomswaardes bo 3.5 miljoen. Die inkomste en bekostigbaarheid van die middelklas kan nie tred hou met die hoë tariewe wat van hulle verwag word nie. Dit is 'n feit dat die eiendomswaardes in die Kaap teen 'n hoër tempo groei as in ander metros. Dus vra ons dat die DA konsekwent sal wees en dat hulle sal vermy gee aan hierdie hoë tariewe wat bo inflasiekoers huidiglik is. Baie dankie.
Baie dankie aan die agbare lid. And I recognize Al-Jamaa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, today I rise on behalf of Al-Jamaa and the communities we serve to express deep concern over the increasing burden of water tariffs and utility hikes on the people of the Western Cape. At a time when many families are still recovering from the economic impact of the pandemic, we must ask ourselves, who are these tariff increases really serving? Water is not a luxury. It is a basic human right. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us that water should be freely accessible, justly distributed, and never exploited for profit. Yet in our province, the poorest households are paying a disproportionately heavy price for a resource that should unite us in dignity, not divide us in hardship. The Al Jama'ah Party stands firmly against unjustified tariff hikes that deepen inequality. We call for a review of the current water pricing structures, greater transparency in how rates are determined, and urgent investment in sustainable water infrastructure, especially in historically neglected communities like Kailicha, Mitchells Plain, and Bontebal. We propose a sliding scale model where the wealthy pay more and the poor are protected. We call on the provincial government to prioritize the needs of the people over profit and to work with communities, not against them. Let us not allow austerity to drown the dignity of our people. Let us lead with compassion, with accountability, and with a vision of shared prosperity for all. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. I now recognize the ACDP.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the right to education is enshrined in Section 29 of the Constitution, guaranteeing everyone access to basic education. Now, Speaker, today, Equal Education Law Centre has taken the WCED to the Western Cape High Court for their policy on late applications. Their focus is on the WCED policy and its failure to address late applications. The order, and it's an urgent order, is to put unplaced learners in school. According to Equal Education and the Equal Education Law Centre, some children from disadvantaged communities have no access to school at the commencement of each academic year. This ACDP believes is a groundbreaking case because they, as we believe, a failure to place an unplaced learner, failure to place an unplaced late learner into school, the determination must be made, is it constitutional, unconstitutional? Because the Constitution gives us the right to place learners in school, but now they are not placed because they are late. So the WCED is facing a major problem each and every year by not placing late learners. And I believe this is going to be a groundbreaking case because late learners, late or not, you must be placed because that is your constitutional right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognize Good. I recognize the Democratic Alliance.
Honourable Speaker, it is with deep sadness that I rise today to express, on behalf of my party, the Democratic Alliance, and the people of the Western Cape, our heartfelt condolences on the passing of His Holiness Pope Francis. Pope Francis was not only the spiritual leader of over 1 billion Catholics around the world, but a global model voice who championed compassion, peace, and social justice. His unwavering commitment to the poor, the marginalized, and the environment resonated far beyond the walls of the Vatican and into the hearts of the people from all walks of life. As the first Pope from the Global South, Pope Francis brought with him a perspective that prioritized inclusion, humility, and servant leadership. His legacy will be remembered not only in religious teachings, but in his courageous stance for human dignity, interfaith dialogue, and global solidarity. We extend our deepest sympathies to the Catholic Church, especially to the Catholic Bishops' Conference, to the faithful in South Africa and the Western Cape, and to all those mourning the loss of a remarkable shepherd and servant of humanity. May his soul rest in peace. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Honourable members, that brings us to the end of member statements. In terms of Rule 145, subsection 6, I now give one or more members of the executive present an opportunity to respond to members' statement for not more than 5 minutes collectively, if they so wish. Honourable members, you do not need to debate it. Is there a member of the executive that wishes to respond to any of the statements? If not, that brings us to the end of members' statement. I now recognize the Honourable Bosman.
Honourable Speaker, I move that the House notes that Honourable Rachel Windvogel, during the sitting of the House on 3rd of April 2025, made unfounded and inaccurate claims against Minister Ivan Meyer, alleging that his visit to Taiwan constituted a betrayal of the country and posed a threat to trade relations with China. The House notes that the Honourable Minister travelled to Taiwan in his personal capacity and did not engage in any formal discussions or represent the Western Cape government during his private visit, nor did he act in his capacity as a provincial leader. Further notes that the rights of individuals, including public representatives, to travel freely without political interference, notes that the assertion in the House by the Honourable Windvogel is a contravention of Rule 59 and resolves that the Honourable Windvogel unreservedly apologises for deliberately misleading the House and withdraws her comment, which negatively reflected on the integrity and dignity of a member of this House. I so move.
Thank you very much. I have been informed by the Chief Whip that the Programming Authority resolved that there would be no list of speakers and that parties who wish to do so will now be afforded an opportunity to make a declaration on the motion for a maximum of 3 minutes if they so wish. I recognize the ANC. Can I ask that the podium please be provided to the Leader of the Opposition?
Honourable Speaker, we condemn
Order, members.
the DA's motion against the Honourable Rachel Windvogel, a blatant attempt to silence legitimate criticism of the Economic Opportunities, Tourism and Agriculture MEC, Dr. Ivan Meyer's reckless excursion to Taiwan. Honourable Windvogel's characterization of this visit as a betrayal of South Africa's One China policy is both accurate and protected under Section 1171 of the Constitution, which guarantees every member the right to free speech in this House. Honourable Windvogel will not apologise for stating the truth. If the Honourable Chief Whip of the DA truly believed that the Honourable Windvogel's remarks were out of order, he had ample opportunity to raise a point of order under Rules 40, 52, D and E, and 66 during the 3rd of April 2025 sitting. Dr. Meyer's Taiwan trip betrayed our foreign policy and undermined the Western Cape's trade with the People's Republic of China. The Chinese government officially has rendered Dr. Meyer a persona non grata. Worse still, by seeking to punish a woman member for exercising her constitutional rights, the DA compounds the culture of victimization
Order, members.
that fuels gender-based violence in our province. This motion is not merely an attack on one member's voice. It is an assault on every woman's right to speak out, especially from the opposition benches. Women of other opposition parties, notably the Honourable Kasim of the EFF and the Honourable Stevens of the PA, are often singled out by DA men. We note the persistent lack of accountability by MEC Ivan Meyer for his Taiwan trip and the DA's unconvincing defense that because it was undertaken in a personal capacity, it falls outside this House's scrutiny. Such a distinction is untenable. There is only one Dr. Ivan Meyer in this chamber, and every action he takes, private or public, must meet the same ethical and constitutional standards. South Africa's foreign policy applies uniformly, regardless of the capacity in which a member travels, and no personal capacity shields can excuse conduct that undermine our national interests. To allow office bearers to hide behind such a pretext would create a dangerous precedent and erode public trust. The DA in this House is acting in blind defense at all costs of their federal executive chairperson in the run-up to the DA's next federal Congress. In doing so, the DA in this House is reaffirming the continued undermining of South Africa's progressive foreign policy, just as they recently did when their members of parliament in the National Assembly visited apartheid Israel
Honorable,
with blindfolds over their eyes and returned,
Syed, your time has
claiming that
expired.
there's no genocide taking place in
Thank
Gaza.
you very much,
To
Honorable.
conclude, we therefore urge
Honorable Syed, your time has expired.
motion itself.
Honorable members, when I call you to order and I call you to inform you that your time has expired, that's in terms of the rules. The fact that you continue doesn't mean that it is captured. And so it's not going to go into Hansard. And for that reason, your microphones have been muted. In your case, Honorable Syed. It's in the interest of fairness and transparency. I now recognize the Patriotic Alliance. The Patriotic Alliance. No, there's an indication that there will be no declaration from the Patriotic Alliance, the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF. My apologies. Can you just put on your microphone? I've been pressing the mute button here. My apologies.
Sorry, I was saying we don't have a declaration, but we fully agree with the ANC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now recognize the NCC.
Yeah, we don't support the whatever they have against them, but the member.
Order, members. Order. Order. Honorable members. Order. Remember, this is a very important matter that there's a motion being tabled. We are in the process of dealing with the motion. So I'm asking for your cooperation and just in the interest of all members. So we're only at the declaration stage now. I will put the motion to the House and then you can indicate your support or not support to the motion. I recognize the Freedom Front Plus.
Honorable Speaker, all we've got to say is freedom of speech must be protected. And that's the conclusion of my declaration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognize Al Jamar.
Thank you very much, Speaker. We support the ANC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The ACDP.
Speaker, Minister Meyer traveled to Taiwan in his personal capacity. And as the ACDP, we believe members of this House and public representatives may travel and should not be prohibited of traveling in their private capacity. We believe Honorable Windwurgel should apologize. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chief Whip, is that a point of order?
Honorable Speaker, yes, I just heard the Honorable Leader of the Opposition call the Honorable Member racist. I'm very confused by.
Thank you very much. So there's a point of order on honorable members. There is a point of order. I will now order members. Honorable Syed, there was a point of order raised against you.
Of course.
Did you refer to any member in this House as racist?
No, I did not. And you can listen to the Hansard. I refer to the political party as racist, not any member. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've order members. I've allowed the member an opportunity. I will now revert to Hansard and I will come back to the House with a ruling if there is a need to do so. I also recognize the Honorable Bryant.
Thank you very much. Speaker, I did try to raise this point earlier. A number of allegations have been raised against the chief whip, effectively referring to him as being involved in targeting women and GBV. I feel that those must be withdrawn. Otherwise, a substantive motum should be brought to back those up.
Order, members. Order. Order. Honourable members, there's been a point of order. I'm dealing with a point of order. I'm going to allow all hands that has been raised. So I will give you an opportunity, but it is only right that I deal with points of orders as they are raised. So there has now been a point of order by the Honourable Bryant that, Honourable Bryant, is there any particular member that has said that?
It was with reference to Honourable Syed's speech. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Honourable Syed, there's been reference made. I will consult Hansard and I will come back, and if there's any infringement on the Can we continue? I will refer to Honourable Syed's delivery of his speech, and I will revert back to the House if there is a need to do so. I now recognize the Honourable Nkondlo. There was a point of order.
Chairperson, I wish to refer you to the statement you made earlier on about your role and responsibility not to close freedom of speech in this House. It is very dangerous and concerning that it seems the rule going to be abused for people to engage now and make their own opinions about political statements that all of us are privileged to do in this House. So I would like for you to attend to this new tendency, which can actually get this House into a dictatorship than a house of democracy.
Thank you very much. I will make a statement on that particular. I don't think it was a point of order. It was a comment made by Honourable Nkondlo, which is very important. I will address that at the end of this process. But what's safe to say, a motion has been tabled in terms of the standing rules that we have all agreed or adopted in the beginning of this session of Parliament, and so the motion is now being debated on the floor. So it would be unprocedural for me to, at this stage, have an opinion or have an opinion prior to it becoming the property of the House. So it only becomes the property of the House once it is being moved in the House. So we are at that stage now, and that's why I will make a statement at the end of this process. With that being said, I recognize Good. I now recognize the Democratic Alliance.
Honourable Speaker, we stand here today to address a matter of fundamental importance to the integrity of our proceedings and the respect we owe each other. The motion before us, brought forth in my name, is not merely about a disagreement or a difference of opinion. It is about upholding the truth and defending the right to personal freedom and ensuring accountability within these very chambers. Just weeks ago, on the 3rd of April, the Honourable Win Vogel made serious allegations against Minister Meyer, suggesting his personal trip to Taiwan constituted a betrayal and threatened our nation's trade relations with China. These were not casual remarks. They were weighty accusations leveled within the formal setting of this House, carrying the implicit authority of a Member of Parliament. However, the facts, as clearly laid out in this motion, paint a starkly different picture. Minister Meyer undertook this journey in his private capacity. He engaged in no official discussions, held no formal representations for the Western Cape government, and acted purely as a private citizen, exercising his fundamental right to travel freely. To suggest otherwise is not only inaccurate, it is a deliberate misrepresentation of the truth. Why is this important, Honourable Speaker? Because the bedrock of our democracy rests on honest discourse and mutual respect. When unfounded accusations are made, especially those who impugn the integrity and dignity of a fellow member, it erodes the trust that is essential to us for us to effectively serve the people we represent. Rule 59 exists precisely to prevent such misleading statements and to safeguard the decorum of this House. To ignore this contravention, to allow such inaccuracies to stand unchallenged, would set a dangerous precedent. It would suggest that members can make baseless claims without consequence, undermining the very principles of truth and accountability that we all swore to uphold. It would stifle the right of every individual, including those in the public service, to engage in personal activities without the shadow of unfounded political accusations. Therefore, supporting this motion is not about political partnership. It is about upholding the truth. It is about defending the fundamental right to personal freedom. It is about ensuring that the integrity and the dignity of every member of this House are respected. It is about reaffirming our commitment to honest and responsible discourse within these chambers. Let us send a clear message today that misinformation has no place here. Let us stand together in support of truth, integrity, and the fundamental rights of every individual. I urge you, honourable members, to unequivocally support this motion, and I call for the Honourable Windvogel to unreservedly apologise and withdraw her unfounded and damaging comments. Let us restore the integrity of our proceedings and reaffirm our commitment to the principles that underpin this esteemed
Honourable
House.
Chief
I
Whip, your
thank you.
time has expired. Thank you very much. Order, members. Order. Order, members. Order. Honourable members, that brings us to the end of declarations, and I have to announce that there are currently 34 members present and entitled to vote, and the House is therefore quorate. The question put before the House is that the motion be adopted. Are there any objections to the motion being adopted? There is an objection. So all those in favour of the question put before the House, that the question being adopted, please say aye. Those not in favour of the question being adopted, please say no. I think the ayes have it, and the question is therefore adopted. I will now afford the Honourable Member Windvogel. Order, members. I will now afford the Honourable Member Windvogel an opportunity to unreservedly apologise for deliberately misleading the House and withdraw comments that negatively reflected on the integrity and the dignity of a member of this House. Honourable Windvogel.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I refuse to withdraw my statement. And and one of the reasons, the minister didn't even apply for leave. So you want to separate the minister from mayor as from his position as the minister. I refuse, Speaker. Finish and clear.
Okay, Honourable Windvogel, you don't need to justify, defend your decision. If you don't want order, members, there was a decision of the House, and we are executing the decision of the House. If Honourable Windvogel, if you're not prepared to withdraw, can I please ask that you leave the chamber?
Speaker, we are also leaving the chamber.
Honourable members, before I get on to notices of motion, I was going to address the matter by Honourable Nkondlo, but in the interest of the member not being in the House, I'm going to reserve that comment until the member is in the House, because it was addressed by or raised by the member, and I want to address it when the member is present in the House. With that being said, honourable members, in terms of Rule 151, all notices of motion by members are required to be delivered to the Secretary for placing on the order paper. These motions have been duly submitted and published on the order paper below the line. We now move on to motions we now move on to motions without notice in terms of Rule 150. And I would like to inform you that in terms of Standing Rule 150 pertaining to motions without notice, condolences and congratulatory were submitted to the Programming Authority prior to this plenary on the 22nd of April 2025. Members are also reminded that motions without notice pertaining to congratulatory and condolences will not be allowed in the sitting that have not been processed by the Programming Authority. I have been informed that in the Programming Authority meeting of the 22nd of April 2025, political parties did submit the names of honourable members in the desired order of speaking and who had wished to move a motion without notice in the sitting of the House. I will therefore, just for noting and for the purposes of the minutes, call out the honourable members' names, whose names have accordingly been submitted and approved. The following members' motions have been approved by the Programming Authority as follows: Honourable D. Stevens, Honourable D.G. Jacobs, Honourable B.M. van Minnen, Honourable B.M. van Minnen, Honourable B.M. van Minnen, Honourable D.W. Bryant, Honourable N.P. Masipa, Honourable N.D. Nkondlo, Honourable A.P. Barnes, Honourable B. Ngensu, Honourable M.K. Syed, Honourable B. Brankhuis. I now put the motions duly submitted and approved by the Programming Authority to the House. Are there any objections to these motions? No objections. Agreed to. The motions will appear in the minutes of the proceedings and in Hansard in each individual member's name, as if the member had read them out aloud. I will now afford an opportunity to members to move motions without notice as per Standing Rule 150, subsection 2, subsection D. This could also include motions without notice that were not approved in the Programming Authority meeting. Members, I wish to remind you that 30 minutes are allocated as per Standing Rule 150, subsection 2, subsection D, and that it will start now. I recognize the Honourable D.W. Jacobs. Honourable Jacobs, my apologies. Honourable Jacobs? Oh, you want the podium? Can I just ask that the table staff stop the time? Because the House is governed by rules and the rule says 30 minutes for motions without notice.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the NCC rises to the pitch flag to those youngsters who have lost their lives in the ongoing gang violence in the Western Cape, especially those in the colored communities. Now, please note that in 2024, the NCC stood in this House to sponsor a debate to address these continuous bloodshed due to gang violence. Further, we note that this is not stopped. Week after week, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters find themselves next to open graves saying their final goodbyes to yet another youngster. We also note that the NCC feels the pain of those families and the tears of those families. Their tears is our tears is their tears. Their pain is our pain is their pain. So we say to the young ones, rest well, young ones. Your blood will not be in vain. We shall overcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognize Honourable Kasim.
Speaker, Speaker, I move without notice for the House to note that today, Thursday, the 24th of April, Equal Education and Equal Education Law Centre will be taking the Western Cape Department of Education to the Western Cape High Court over the issue of unplaced learners in the province. Further note that these two organizations' case will mainly focus on WCED's policy and its failure to adequately and satisfactorily address the issue of late applications and to timelessly place learners in schools. Take notice that this issue mostly affects children from disadvantaged communities who normally lose a lot of school duration and end up not being assisted to catch up with schoolwork, which leads to them producing poor results. In conclusion, Speaker, I conclude by stating that this is a shortcoming on the part of the government, as it could have This thing is mixed up. Sorry, Speaker. No child should stay at home for extended periods of time due to the fact that the whole department is unable to find them placement in school. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Members, are there any objection to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognise the Honourable Stoffel. I recognise the Honourable Windvogel. I recognise the Honourable Stoffel. I recognise the Honourable Ngensu. I recognise the Honourable Ngensu. I recognise the Honourable Syed. I recognise the Honourable Windvogel. I recognise the Honourable Nkontlo. I recognise the Honourable Lekker. Honourable members, that brings us to the end of motions without notice. The Secretary will read the order of the day.
Consideration of the report of the Conduct Committee on the breach of Code of Conduct for members of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament 2020 by Honourable Member T. Letterkong.
Thank you very much. I've been informed by the Chief Whip that the Programming Authority resolved that there would be no list of speakers and that parties who wish to do so will now be afforded an opportunity to make a declaration on the report for a maximum of 3 minutes. I recognise the ANC. I recognise the Patriotic Alliance.
Don't want to thank you.
No declaration. I recognise the EFF. Do you need the podium?
No, it's fine, Speaker. Speaker, the EFF notes even the EFF calls for the Code of Conduct to be reviewed and amended so that it can allow flexibility, especially where members such as, this is in the case of a ruling, sorry, Speaker, for the Code of Conduct to be reviewed and amended so that it can be allowed flexibility, especially where members such as Member Letterkong's position who experienced technical issues at the time and informed the Members' Interest Department, specifically Advocate P. Burgers, requesting to be allowed more time due to issues which includes, there was a storm at the time, as I believe, Speaker, which was reported to the department, sorry, to Advocate Burger. And that was some of the issues which led to Member Letterkong not being able to submit at the time. Speaker, just to add, if there is a ruling, it is that Member Letterkong will be accepting any ruling, but also the current rules are rigged and unfair and they should be changed. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. I recognise the NCC.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the NCC declare that we do not support the recommended penalty as noted in the report. Speaker, as a minority party in the House, we are here to represent the people that trusted us with their votes on the 29th of May 2024. When we are representing these voters in this august House, we are on the ground, we are in the community, and we are always busy assisting our people where the ruling party has failed. Nou, Speaker, ek maak ook maar baie mistakes en sê ek gaan nou die emails stuur en dan stuur ek dit. But this was an administrative delay. There was no financial loss suffered by the WCPP. And this was the first time that the member has contravened the code. Now, if the member was already found guilty on the breach of the Code of Conduct, I would have agreed on the penalty. But let this be a learning curve. Also, this is the member's final warning, so I believe she won't have this experience again. We, the NCC, declare that we do not support this recommended penalty, and let this be a session deemed as a warning to the member. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognize the Freedom Front Plus. Freedom Front Plus.
Declaration, Speaker.
Freedom Front Plus. Al Jamal.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Al-Jama's position is that we don't support this penalty and the decision should be reviewed. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you very much. The ACDP.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the ACDP.
Order members. Honorable Christians, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the ACDP support the reprimand, but not the second bullet to say that the member should not have her privileges, a right to seat to debates and committees and be suspended. So we believe that the member has learned a lesson, but the reprimand is good enough, not further than that. So we cannot support that. It's a new member. It's a first year. And I think the committee has looked at all the recommendations. I don't know what the members said about mitigating reasons, but that should be sufficient. And I think because it's a new member, reprimand is in order. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognize Good. I recognize the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I trust that in general, members of this House understand their role and generally try to colour within the lines. However, sometimes it is necessary for the Conduct Committee to meet and deal with an infringement of the rules and regulations governing the behaviour of members. However, it must also be borne in mind that these findings should serve to refresh everyone's awareness of pitfalls so that we avoid it in future, as no one likes conduct findings having to serve before the House, as they do today. The Conduct Committee met on the 6th of November 2024 to hear the Registrar of Members' Interests present a report on a breach of the Code of Conduct by a member who failed to submit disclosure forms by the due date. Disclosures are a very important part of the accountability mechanism for members, and filing them correctly and submitting them on time, both here and in the National Parliament, contributes to the integrity of members and ultimately the integrity of the House. In this particular case, the member failed to submit timeously, despite at least 5 written reminders to do so, as well as a reminder to the whip of the party concerned. The conduct process then followed, and no response was received to the complaint against the member by the time of the sitting of the Conduct Committee. The committee deliberated on and accepted the Registrar's report, finding the member liable for the omission and thus guilty of a conduct violation in this regard. It is that report that is before this House today for consideration, and I would urge the House to understand the gravity of the matter. We are all representatives of the people, and regardless of our political differences, we are here by virtue of the votes of the people. When we fail in our duties and breach the Code of Conduct, we fail not only ourselves, but also the residents and the voters of the Western Cape. I also take this opportunity to appeal to the members to be aware of the submission dates for our latest annual disclosures, which is at the end of this month. Do not forget or let it slip the House's mind. I have no wish to plagiarize my own speech in a few months' time. Speaker, through you, I appeal to the members to ensure submission timeously. I thus move this report and urge the House to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've just noted that Honourable Marais had connectivity issues. I'm going to allow Honourable Marais, if he wants to make a declaration, that he can do so. Honourable Marais. Okay, I'm not getting a response. I'm going to continue. Honourable members, I have to announce that there are currently 26 honourable members present and entitled to vote, and the House is therefore quorate. The question put before the House is that the report of the Conduct Committee be adopted. Are there any objections to the report being adopted? There's an objection. So all those in favour of the question being put, that the report be adopted, please say aye. Those not in favour of the question being adopted, please say no. I think the ayes have it. And the report being adopted, honourable members, that also concludes the business for the day. The Secretary will now end the meeting and all members will be exited from the sitting. The House is adjourned.